All right. So Shabbat Shalom. Welcome everybody. It's our 19th fellowship together. Praise Yah. So yeah, a lot of amazing stuff we have for today. So yeah. Let me go ahead and say a quick prayer and then we can get started. All right. Father, Abba Yahuwah, we come to you in prayer to thank you for this fellowship and this gathering that you have allowed us to do every Sabbath. And thank you for all the fellowship and the blessings that have come from it. And we are all echad, and it's all thanks to you, Father. Praise Yah. We thank you for your Sabbath day and your day of rest. And I wanted to pray for all those who struggle through trials, tribulations, sicknesses, no matter what it is. We all need your strength and endurance to stand to the end. And I pray to you in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. Amen.
Hallelujah, amen.
Praise Yah. So I wanted to show the calendar here just to show what day we're on. So it's the day that Messiah has risen from the tomb at evening. So praise Yah. So we're going to be right here. 18th day of the first month. That's where we are today. We still have, let's see, 1, 2, 3 more days until the end of unleavened bread. Then we have first fruits, which will be day 1 the following week after that Sabbath. Praise Yah. So, does anybody have questions about the calendar so far? I know it looks like we're all, there's really nobody new in chat at the moment. But if anybody has questions about the calendar or anything, feel free to ask. We can always go over it. In most of our discussions, we go over it right off the bat. We've gone over it so much. So, if anybody has questions, we can. Yeah, go ahead.
A question came up here. What do you do with the march around Jericho?
So the march around Jericho.
The concern is that they would have been in full battle array on preparing, just in case, preparing for battle on a day that would be a Sabbath day.
Yeah, so actually the march around Jericho, Jericho is a very small city. They were commanded by Yahuwah to march around it for 7 days. There's nowhere that says that 7-day march around it, that it was, day 1 of that 7 days was day 1 of the week. It's just a general 7-day count to march around it. So any one of those days could have been a Sabbath day. It was just, they marched around the city and blew some trumpets. And then on the final day, they really had to do no fighting. All they did was blow trumpets and, scream and yell. And everything fell. So it doesn't interrupt the Sabbath. It doesn't, break journeying on a, not to travel on a Shabbat. I think we went over
Yeah.
this in one
I'm
of our
sorry. It'll
discussions.
probably come up again. I started it too soon because of who thinks that others need. Jennifer, I will try this
You're
again
breaking
later.
up.
That right? Can we look at this again later?
Yeah,
The
sure.
person asked for is otherwise right now saying goodbye, Jeff. So.
I can actually. So I did a video about it. It's actually my rebuttal to Adam's Book of Jubilees video where I show the scriptures because he brings that up as well. So I go over it. Let me see if I can get the link here. But I walk that through scriptures and show exactly what's going on there. So let me just grab the link for you. Let's see. Here it is. All right, so I'll share the link here in the Telegram chat. But this is basically it's my response to Adam Fink's video where he's trying to discredit the Book of Jubilees, and he tries to use the Battle of Jericho as an example there, and I break it all down through scriptures.
Also, what's really interesting about Jericho is it's the word is Jericho, but it's like Moon City. It's Yurako. And it was the first place that, when the children came out into everything under Joshua's rule, right? Was it? He actually, I just find it funny that, the Moon City was the first place that they had to conquer.
Yeah, exactly, Yurako. It was even shaped like a crescent moon as well. So yeah, so let me get into what actually I found yesterday. Oh, go ahead. You were breaking up there, sister.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was looking for something. How you doing? You got
Is there any
Yeah,
way that we could get a better connection established? Because we cannot hear you at all, unfortunately.
yeah.
I do just listen, and then once we can get our connection, then I'll either if we can get a day, then I'll rejoin you guys and talk and all of that. But not this point in time. I enjoy listening to you guys, so I'll just set things fixed up.
I can kind of make out what you're saying. I think you said you're just gonna listen until you get a better signal.
Maybe you guys could type in questions. Ellie, for now, maybe you guys could type in whatever questions you have, and Jeremy can answer it on here from that.
Yeah, I think that would be good. Because the signal is
I know it
super
takes more
choppy.
time, but we really want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. All right. So, getting into Enoch, the book of Enoch. Something interesting we found, and it's because, questions were asked, it makes us dig deeper. So let me show the screen here and show you. So, where is it? Okay, here we go. So, one of the first things I found here, which is really fascinating. So, Enoch 78, it's talking about, and on these first days, it's called new moons. So, if we look at the Hebrew word here, I have underlined in red. Guess what word that is? You can only take a guess.
New month.
Right here. Chodesh. So even in Enoch, we found new moon does not exist. It is Chodesh. So we see it spelling right there. Go back, zoom in again. Same spelling right there. Just kind of more evidence, new moon does not even exist in Enoch here. So no, it's not called new moons. It's called, these are the months of the moon. So that's what he's describing, because there are lunar months and there's the true solar months that we use for our calendar. The lunar months are not used for the calendar. They weren't going by slivers and new moons and things like that. Just kind of more evidence to solidify that. And then another discovery here, which is even more fascinating. So here, actually, I can just go to, because I have it here. Well, wait, no, I'll share this one first, because I can zoom in a lot clearer. So here, it's this book called, it's the book of Enoch in Aramaic. And I'll share the link to it here in the chat. Let me do that real quick. But what we can see here, so the fragments from the Dead Sea Scrolls is what this is. And I shared it in chat the other day, but here it is again there in chat. So what we see here, so, our first few discussions, we talked about how Enoch 82 is incomplete. Like, it's missing, it's just not there. So what we do see here, so from the Dead Sea Scrolls, it's called 4Q Anaster, but it's basically the book of Enoch. So this is saying, look, after Enoch 82:20, because, that's where our, books of Enoch are going to end, there in chapter 82. Verse 20 is the last verse. But what we see here is after it was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So these are all just what was found there. And then when we scroll down and read, we're going to read the translation here. So this is actually going to show again, fall and winter, you know, the two seasons that were missing out of Enoch 82. So it's the clouds which make dew. Again, these three dots here, they're just symbol, you know, some missing words in the text. So it's just a fragmented out. It's from the Dead Sea Scrolls, so they like to throw us those fragments. So anyway, it's so after Enoch 82, after verse 20 specifically, this is what we're going to get. Excuse me. So the clouds which make dew, and rain falling upon the earth, and seed. And then blank, herbs of the earth and trees. And the sun rises and sets. And then blank. And then winter comes, and leaves of all the trees wither and fall down, except 14 trees, for which it is not fitting. Blank, their leaves remain. Blank. So this is actually the second time Enoch is referring to these 14 different trees. Just like, I forget the other chapter. It's earlier on in Enoch, but he's saying the same thing. And then this, blank, from its measure, blank, a 10th part of a ninth part. So this is talking about, you know, the parts of the day and night, as he describes. And then a 10th part of a ninth part. And the stars move through the first gates of the heaven. Then they come forth. On first days, 1/10 by 1/6. On second days, 1/15 by 1/6. On third days, 1/30 by 1/6. I wish it wasn't so fragmented out, because I would really like to know exactly what it's describing. Then on the 15th day, blank, in the same day, blank, only in this night from blank, a third part of a ninth part, and 5, blank, and a 10th part of a ninth part. And then it goes on and continues, you know, the translator of the fragment and everything else. So let me just go straight to the web page here, and I'll show you. So this is going to be that web page at the very link I shared with you there. But as we can see here, you know, that Hebrew word chodesh, they mistranslate it to new moon. And again, you know, Enoch 78:9. And this is a page, here we see 293, 294 of that same link I sent there in the chat. And then it's going to go on and continue with more of Enoch, which is really fascinating. This whole paper is pretty fascinating, because it's got like, it's the fragmented out book of Enoch, but it's basically the whole book of Enoch and what he's talking about in there. All the fragments that were found there in Cave 4 of the book of Enoch. So yeah, so we got 79:6 talking about, you know, basically what it says in our normal Enoch. But this is, let me scroll down, where is it? So 82, so okay, this is 82. So it's a really fascinating read, you know, with regards to their zodiacal periods. Again, they're new months, not new moons. Daily signs, these are the names. With regard to their station, the 4 leaders. So it's pretty much saying the same thing, but we have some, you know, different verbiage here. And then we get to the section, you know, after Enoch 82:20, what we just read there, which is a really fascinating find, which is proving Enoch 82 is missing these 2 last seasons, fall and winter. And then it also goes into a bit more detail which I would say is the other two heads of thousands, because we're only getting two heads of the thousands as we see in Enoch 82. But after that, see, we could see he goes more into the heads of thousands, but it's very fragmented out. So we can't truly, we can't truly tell exactly what's going on there. But, yeah, great find. Yeah. All praise to the Most High, So that was just some fascinating finds we found, which goes along with, still our Enoch discussion, as we decided to continue it till this week. For those who were unable to make our fellowship and present their Enoch findings last week, but yeah, really amazing find. Oh yeah, I was going to show, Hodesh. That's what I meant to do. Let me scroll back up here just to show you. So we got, where is it? That verse with new moon. Here it is. So we got this Hebrew word here. Yod, He, Shin, Vav. I'm not 100% what this last letter is. Yeah, the word Chodesh, Enoch 72. Yeah, exactly. So this one's 78. I'm not sure if they have 72. They might, because some chapters they have and some they don't, because it's very fragmented out. So they got 76. I was scrolling through all this. I think they do have 72 in there somewhere. There's, as you can see, 487 pages. But it goes through a lot. And there's like different sections, So in this section of Cave 4, they found this. In that section of Cave 4, they found that kind of stuff. So that's what it's talking about as well. So where was that? Oh yeah, right here. So we see, this spelling right here. Is it the glory of Yah to conceal a matter? Or it is the glory of Yah to conceal a matter and kings to search it out. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so here's that mood, the word they translate to new moon. But guess what we see here? Remember the spelling, because right here, oh, there it is. Chodesh. And we have a similar spelling to what we see right there in the Dead Sea Scrolls. It was down here. Right here. So it's a similar spelling, not exactly the same spelling, but still Chodesh. So Yod. That's not a hey, it's a my mind's drawing blanks right now, but we can see this spelling compared to the same exact letters used. Just this last little, that's a dalet, I believe. They're using I think it's a gimel. But we know in the Dead Sea Scrolls, they spelled words slightly differently, than our modern Hebrew does. But yeah, praise Yah for this find. And we see it's Chodesh right there. It's not called new moon in Enoch. This first day it's called the new month. So yeah, just really an amazing find. All praise to the Most High for pointing this out. And then, just more evidence. Enoch chapter 82, we're missing half of it. We have the other half of it. It's just super fragmented out. And, you know, that goes right along with how they destroyed Cave 7 with all the New Testament fragments in there. Because they don't want anybody connecting this back to the New Testament. They don't want people connecting it back to Messiah and Yohanan the Immerser, John the Baptist. Because they know when you do, you're going to see, oh, boom, Dead Sea Scrolls connected to Messiah himself. Therefore, they are the sons of Zadok. Boom. Yeah, exciting times indeed. Absolutely, sister. So, yeah, again, this is called the, what's it called here? So, but this is the author, Milik, Yosef T. Milik. But the Book of Enoch, Aramaic Fragments, Qumran Cave 4. Published, 1976. So it's just going over the rest of the chapters there. But yeah, this is all the Book of Enoch that was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So yeah, feel free. I got the link there in chat. Feel free to go over it. Purchase the book. Whatever you feel. So does anybody have... was it you, Miranda, that you had some findings you found in Enoch that you weren't able to share? I don't remember exactly. Sorry.
I was at Marissa's last weekend, so I mean, there's nuggets everywhere. I just wasn't able to really go through Enoch, but yeah, I don't really have anything to say on Enoch. Definitely have some things to say maybe a little bit later. But since we're still kind of on the Enoch train, I'll just kind of save that for later.
Yeah, yeah, no worries. Now, does anybody else have any questions or anything, you know, they would like to add or anything else they've found? Yeah, hidden right there in plain sight, just like they do with everything else. You know, it's all hidden in front of our faces. And, you know, that's what Babylon does. They cause that confusion. We don't see the truth, but it's right there.
So how'd you come across this, Jeremy?
I was actually... So I was reading through Enoch chapter 80, where it's talking about how, you know, the moon, the stars, the fields, the crops, all these things are going to be off in the days of the sinners. So I was looking for, like, the Dead Sea Scrolls version of that. Like, what does it say in the Dead Sea Scrolls? Because in there, at the beginning of it, in those days, it says the days will be shortened. So I was wondering, does it really say, are they going to be shortened? Or what is the context of that? Is it talking about the days of men are going to be shortened? Because, you know, at Enoch's time when he was writing it, they were living for hundreds of years, almost 1,000 years at that time. Whereas after the flood, you know, 120 years is the max. So I was just looking for that, see if I could find it. Unfortunately, that part's missing. It's fragmented out. So, but while looking for that, that's where I found, you know, this.
Awesome.
And yeah.
Yeah, it definitely proves that there is something here at the end of this age that they just do not want us to get a grasp of.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I believe, Enoch 82 is going to tell us exactly how to bring in the year. That's why they have it so fragmented out. That's why, they don't make it known that, hey, half of it's missing. Like, most people don't even know. I didn't know until Victor brought it up. And then I was like, you know what? You're right. Because it only talks about spring and summer. But then here we find in the Dead Sea Scrolls, we see fall is fragmented out, but we can see it's talking about fall, when the rains and the storms start coming in. And it mentions winter by name. And then it goes on about, the leaders of the thousands, but it's super fragmented out, so we don't know what's going on. But, it's really good evidence. And, I shared it with Victor as well. So, not pretty awesome stuff.
And with more questions that keep getting brought up, questions that we never knew to ask, we can now search for the answer for those questions.
Yeah, exactly. Never stop searching. And yeah, I know Miranda has some very interesting findings she found in the stars as well, or not Miranda, sorry, Marissa. Too many M names. But Marissa, I know she has some findings she wanted to present.
Do it.
Yes,
Yeah.
I will. But hold on, because I'm brushing my teeth.
Got it. No worries. You should be able to screen share if you need to, so you can share those pictures. I'm not sure if you know how to do that or not. I know you're brushing your teeth, so you don't have to answer immediately. But you can try to screen share those pictures, or you can
Okay.
forward it in the chat, and I can share them.
All right. Let me get the pictures and I'll forward them, and then I'll talk about. Hold on one second.
Okay, cool. Yeah, really awesome stuff. Just more witnesses in the stars. Praise Yahuwah. Oh, you know what? While we're doing that, there is one video I wanted to share. I kind of shared it in chat earlier, but I'll share it after Marissa. Well, I can do it before, just to give her some time. It's only like a 2-minute video, but it's basically showing, April 3rd, which is the 15th of the first month in history. There was a blood moon eclipse and an earthquake on that day in 33 AD. The very same day. Yeah.
Sorry.
What's that?
I know that the Book of the Nazarene doesn't have too much credit or anything, but I do remember that when I read it, it did say that there was a blood moon on the same day that Yahushua was crucified. So it's interesting that the Book of the Nazarene talked about that as well.
I know. So yeah, that goes just to show, they do have some truth sprinkled throughout their lives. So, that's very interesting, actually. What book did you say that was again?
The Book of the Nazarene, I read it like twice when it.
Oh yeah.
I picked it up, and I liked it. But again, I only read it twice, and it was with very new baby eyes to the faith, and so I haven't read it since. My sister has it, but I do remember that part, and that's kind of back when like Mom and I were looking into like the moon, and so like when it said that, I didn't know really what to make of it, because I was like, I don't think we're supposed to be following the moon, so I'm just gonna disregard this, because I was just like, I wasn't sure.
No, and actually, I like the Book of the Nazarene. It seems to line up with scriptures as well. So, yeah, apologies. I didn't hear what book you were talking about at first, but
No worries.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's kind of solidifying, what we found. There's Marissa. Let me get these pictures.
I put them in order too, Jeremy.
Hey, I missed that what you guys were talking about for the last few minutes. Can you just do a recap? What was found?
Oh, so basically, what we found is even in Enoch, where they say, the verse, he says, on this first day, it's called the new moon. Well, it
I
does not
lost
say new moon
signal.
there.
I'm driving back home.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me,
Yes.
sister? Okay. So that verse in Enoch where he's talking about the moon and he says, on this first day, it's called new moon. So the word they use there is not new moon. It's chodesh. So in the Hebrew, it's not new moon. It's not YAHUAH there. It's chodesh. And then we also found more evidence of Enoch 82 being incomplete, as we found the last half of Enoch 82, although very fragmented, but we found the last half of Enoch 82 where it goes into fall and winter and the other two leaders of thousands. Really fascinating stuff. But
Wow,
let me get
Jeremy, where
these
did you
pictures.
find the last part? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. So I showed the link there in the chat. It's from the Book of Enoch Aramaic Fragments.
Okay, great. Thank
So
you.
right in there on page 293, 294. That's where I found it. But yeah, it's 100% proof. Chapter 82 of Enoch, we are missing half of it because we have the other half of it. Boom.
Praise Yah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Jeremy, are you ready for this?
One sec, I gotta get these pictures downloaded.
Okay. Shalom, Ken.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Sorry I'm a bit late.
Hey, better late than never, though.
Have I missed it much?
Hey, Shabbat Shalom. So, yeah, we just some important discoveries we made. We found evidence Enoch chapter 82 is missing, as we found the last half of it, where it goes into fall and winter, and the other two leaders of the thousands. We found it right there in the Dead Sea Scrolls, Book of Enoch. And then,
Great stuff.
yeah, and then we also found right there, in Enoch, where he's saying, "Oh, the first days are called new moons." Well, it does not say new moon there in the Hebrew. It says Chodesh, new month. So
Yeah,
just
well,
more. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, well, we knew that everywhere. Anyway, tell me about this new chapter you found, if that's okay with everyone, while everything's going on, or I can listen back.
We Marissa was just about to present her star findings. We can recap it there after a bit here.
No, please don't.
Um,
Carry on, Marissa. Please don't. Carry on, Marissa.
yeah, because I know she's really been wanting to present it. So yeah, give
Yeah,
me
and
just a moment.
like when I come and talk on here like for a longer period, I come and hide in my bathroom because I have 6 kids, so they're pretty loud.
I love your children.
They're okay. You know, I guess they're all right.
All right. So I got the images. Let me just share them real quick.
Yeah, I threw a last one in there as well.
Awesome.
Okay, cool.
Can everybody see that on screen?
It just like looks so small, Jeremy. Yeah, that's good. Maybe zoom out a little bit more. Yeah, and lower it. All right, so we can see there that that was March 20th, guys. So, all right, we could just leave it there, Jeremy. So, I was driving home in the car the other day just to kind of share like how this came to me. And I'm driving and I wasn't thinking too hard about this, but you know, we all have a level of understanding that the constellations are for the months. And I've looked into the various time periods, such as tropical time and sidereal time and astronomical time. We know astronomical time is uh, falsehood because they use 13 constellations along the ecliptic, which none of them are in an even order. And if anybody has ever uh, like looked into how the Mazzaroth are months, you know it's 30 degrees for all 12 of them, and then that's how you get to 360. So I'm like, all right, but why do they say for the tropical year, which lines up with the equinox, why do they say that the sun is in Aries? Because when you look up at the sky, what you're actually viewing is the luminaries in sidereal time. So in sidereal time, the sun is in Pisces, and that comes in at our divider day, which is really cool. So sidereal time reflects the outer wheel, where we see the divider day before creation week. However, tropical time reflects the inner wheel where our seasons are and our months are. And so they say, oh, the sun's in Aries at the equinox. Well, how is that so? And our good sister Adrienne, she has been, it has been pressed upon her to look towards the west. And so that kind of like dawned on me as I was driving in my car, and I'm like, well, she says look in the west. What's in the west? And so it just came to me there where I'm like, all right, so we view this sign in the east to begin our years, right? So we're viewing the sun rising at 90 degrees east. We're making our marks all day, and that sun sets at 270 degrees west. And it makes the straight line shadow. And we're like, great, this is hallelujah, it's the first day of our year. And then our witnesses come in. And the first witness that we'll see, which Jeremy, if you could flip the picture to the very last one I shared with Leo. Sorry to do that to you. Yeah. All right. So right at sunset, this is I use this app called Sky Tonight. And so we're right at sundown. So I just know when I screenshot this, the sun is in the west. It just went below the horizon. And so I turned to the east. And the first constellation that is rising is Leo. And Leo is in the story of the Mazzaroth, the sign of the tribe of Judah. And Judah is first in the east. So is this our month? No, this is not our month, but another witness that the tribe of Judah is entering in first at the beginning of our year here. And so then an hour after sunset, when you can see all of the stars now, that's where that first picture comes in, Jeremy, where we see Aries is in the west. Over the horizon an hour after sunset. And so this is the sign of our month. Our month's sign will be in the west an hour after sunset. And so the tabernacle in the heavens rotates throughout the night. So eventually at a certain time of night, this will rotate out. So this is always in the west for the month 1. So what's really cool is at this point in time, 1 hour after sunset, if you pan around to the east and now see what is in the east, go to the next picture. 1 hour after sunset. No, it's not that one. Next picture. Yeah. This is what we'll see. So if you guys can see the horizon line there, you can see that Virgo is poking her head up right there. Can you pan to the date on the top? So this is right on March 20th. This is the next sign you're going to see in the east. Once it's an hour after sunset, Leo is above Virgo at this point. But when you can witness that month sign in the west and you pan over and look in the east, this is what you see is Virgo's head poking up. And now go to the previous picture, Jeremy, and let me see the top with the date. Okay, so this is now March 31st is the equivalent of the 12th day of the first month. And zoom in on that Spica star for me. So an hour after sunset, we see Spica is still under the horizon on the 12th day of the first month, an hour after sunset. Now, why is the Spica star so important? It's because she's holding a sheaf of barley in her hand. And the Spica star is representative of the barley. All right, so go to the next picture and then the next picture. And let's see zoom in on Spica there. So now we're at April 1st, 1 hour after sunset, and Spica is now over the horizon. So this is the 13th day of the first month, which is 2 weeks after the spring intercalary day, bringing in the spring season. So we see the Spica star over the horizon, ripening the barley. And go to the next picture and zoom in. Here is April 2nd. Here's our Passover, our day of Passover. The barley is now Aviv by the time of Passover. So I feel like this is an incredible witness in the stars to that we are in the right season, that we are in the correct month, we're in the correct rotation in the tabernacles, with seeing Judah come in first, and our barley is ripe by the time of Passover. Hallelujah.
Wow, that is awesome. Praise Yahuwah.
Does anybody have any comments or questions or anything?
I was looking at the same thing, but I was looking at the beginning of the year rather than um, the Passover. And what I noticed was in the West. No, I was looking in the West again, the same as you. I noticed that the first star on Orion's belt hit exactly west on the start of the year, which I just thought
Oh,
was really interesting. I think that when we're looking at the stars, you're right, Marissa, that we do need to look west and we do need to look east. I think the story is told on both sides.
absolutely. See, Ken, I thought you would appreciate this. I was so glad you joined right before I was going to present it.
Praise Yah. Awesome.
And just to throw in a little bit of useless information, the Sphinx that looks to the east is a woman at the front and a lion at the back.
Wow, that's
Interesting.
really interesting.
Which is exactly what we see when the year begins, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep. I'm trying to find Orion's belt on my on my app here to see what you're talking about. You said it's at sunset or sunrise?
Oh crikey, no, it's at sun. It it's it comes down. The belt. Again, I looked at this a few days back. The belt comes down towards the west.
Oh,
So,
okay. I see him there. Okay.
and if you watch the west marker, you'll see that the first belt of the first star of his belt. Again, there's a reason why the pyramids are there, because it actually copies the shape of Orion's belt. But I saw that at the beginning of the year, the most easterly star on the belt hit the west perfectly at the beginning.
Wow. Praise Yah.
All right, I'm gonna send that picture in the chat for you guys. I took a screenshot.
Yes, and I'll show it here on screen. And there's also another video I wanted to share, just a quick video. Not right now. I'm going to share it, but after this, it's going to confirm this calendar as well. And it's just showing, the blood moon eclipse and the earthquake that happened on April 3rd, which is the first day of unleavened bread. Boom.
So I think, Marissa, you're absolutely right. I think now's the time that we should start looking at the stars and building more understanding of how the months, certainly. But I also think that there's much more information that we don't know about now, and I think once we start tickling this and working with this, we're going to see ourselves given more wisdom.
Yeah, pretty interesting stuff. Praise Yahuwah.
Yeah, I did go through and I took screenshots of all 12 months and like what that Mazzaroth looks like in the west an hour after sunset. And they're all right there. It's always a different one at that time on the first day of the next month. It's so cool.
Wow, amazing. Confirmation after confirmation.
I'm going to send them in the chat, Jeremy. Hold on.
Yeah, no worries.
And if my memory serves me correct, what you're seeing now on the west, you'll see in the east 6 months later.
Yes. Yep. All right. So, Jeremy, I started those at April since we already put March on there. And like using the dates on the biblical calendar. So, and then the last month I did was the first month of next year.
Awesome. I need to save them all to get them
Oh,
to share them
okay.
on.
Yeah,
Once I get them.
I like being able to just show everybody this because it's instead of like trust me, bro, you know. And you gotta look at the order of them too, Jeremy, because I'm looking at how they came in, and like even though I clicked them in order on my phone and then I like shared them and click send, they're all out of order in Telegram. Hey, this is a huge turnout today. This is awesome. Praise Yah.
Oh yeah, praise Yahuwah. 100%.
I love you, Marissa. You're a fine sister doing great work.
Thank you. Thank you. I love you all too. Yeah. I gotta get one of your pegboards, Ken.
I actually have the templates. He sent me the templates for the pegboard, so all you just need is a board and you stick on the template. I have to find those.
Oh, that's really cool. Just like another fun thing to do with the kids, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
It's funny, I woke up one night, I think it was about, I don't know, 5 years ago maybe, and I was just basically, yes. No, I just went downstairs and I plotted it all out, and it was absolutely wonderful. I'd been reading Enoch and trying to work out about the year, which we knew at 30 days, 30 days, 31 days, 30 days, 30 days, 31 days. And I did no mathematical calculation whatsoever. I woke up and I had a feeling that this was correct. And I went downstairs and I just plotted it out on a piece of paper, and that was it. It was nothing of me.
Yeah, all praise to the Most High. All right, so I think I got all of them downloaded. Give me 1 second, I'll share them here. Okay, just let me know if that's the correct one.
No, look at the date on the top. It should be April 1st. Well, not April 1st, but April is 1st.
Okay, yeah. Hold on 1 sec. So April. There we go.
All right, so that's April 19th, so it's the first day of the second month. And we see Taurus there an hour after sunset on the western horizon. And so, Jeremy, as you flip through these months, like show the date at the top and then the constellation that's there. It's a different one every month, so May would be next.
Yeah, very interesting.
Awesome job.
I don't. Yeah, I agree. Awesome job. Yeah, May, July. I know it's not in order here on screen. Yeah, I think this might be the easiest way, even though it's not in order. Yeah, June 19th, we have Cancer. October, Scorpio, whatever. October. Wait, did I skip one? No. And then July, Leo. Wow, that's really amazing, honestly. Yeah, May, Gemini.
And are these all? Sorry, are these all looking to the west, Marissa?
Yes, it's always an hour after sunset. Like I looked at like when the sun would set on each month, and then I just like fast forwarded it by an hour, and so that's what it looks like when you look to the west for the beginning of each month.
Yeah, August. Wow.
Marissa, do you
Yes.
find that they're moving along the horizon? So if you're looking west, they'll be moving north.
No, they will go under the horizon at a certain point in the night because they like rotate throughout the night. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I just wondered.
Like they go in the direction with the sun. The stars rise in the east and set in the west.
And they move 1 degree every hour, right?
I'm not sure, but
Okay.
I'm not sure about like how many degrees each hour, but I just know that it turns in the sky.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, as we look at the sun, now we know that the sun is going to be moving from the south to the north. So it will move along the horizon from the east now and slowly, steady move towards the north. I'm wondering whether the start of the year is exactly west or is it opposite the sun, if you know what I mean. Which would mean it was just before the west.
Wow. That's really fascinating. They're like all like right there in that same spot too.
Yeah, and I think that's really cool how you can observe the sun sign first and then you get the stars. And then that verse in Enoch where it says the sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly.
Absolutely.
That's the evidence right there. Boom. All the witnesses. Amazing.
Thank you so much, Marissa. This is fantastic.
Yeah, thank you, sister.
Hey, all praise to the Most High.
Yeah, amen. Yeah, really amazing work, for sure. So there's a video I wanted to share. It's just a couple minutes long, but it's gonna also be more confirmation of this calendar right here, Yahuwah's calendar. So he uses the J name, which whatever, but we all know who he's talking about. So this is not for about pronunciations, things like that. This is just historical proof that we're going to show here. Let me just share it, and then it's only a minute 58, so we'll just share it real quick. You guys can see.
Yes.
On the day Jesus was crucified, that the sun darkened and the moon turned to blood, and science confirmed it. Well, that's next on the trumpet. All that and an earthquake on April 3rd, 33 AD. So that happened April 3rd, 33 AD. And yes, there was an earthquake on that day. The people in the Old Testament and the New Testament said the exact same thing about the blood moon. That's also in the end time prophecy of the book of Revelation. They call that a blood moon. That all happened on the day that he was crucified. That's right there on the 33. 33, right there. The book of Matthew, chapter 27, tells you all about the earthquake. And the earth did quake, and the rocks rent, and the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose, and came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city, and appeared unto many. So there was an earthquake, a blood moon, an eclipse, and the graves were open, and they walked into Jerusalem. I was trying to figure out why April the 2nd might be such a big deal, and that was the day that Jesus was arrested. Some people believe that Jesus was crucified in 30 AD. However, there's not an earthquake or an eclipse that coincide with those dates. I go by Ezekiel 33:3, and that scripture says that when I see the sword fall upon the land, I blow the trumpet and warn the people, so like and follow the trumpet for more. And in Jesus' name, have a blessed day.
Yeah, so pretty interesting stuff there, just more confirmation. Because April 3rd was our first day of unleavened bread. And so does anybody have any questions or about what we shared so far, or anything they would like to add so far?
I've just sent a message to Marissa, and it said, more or less, I think that this could be the beginning of us understanding the heavenly scroll, now that we're starting to look at the stars.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree for sure.
This
Yeah,
morning,
it's just like another piece to the puzzle, right, guys?
Yeah.
absolutely.
I mean, it's great because, you know, a lot of times, like with a solar calendar, people are like, oh, all you care about is the sun worshiper, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, nuh-uh, no, sir. It's not only about the sun. We're taking the other witnesses into account. It just is, it's taken us a little bit of time to solidify, like, how they're used because we have to look at it so much. Like, his tabernacle in the sky is so vast. It's a vast expanse. It's not like it's simple, but it's complicated. It really takes the ruach to help us to understand it. And it doesn't just come all at once. And oftentimes every one of us has a little piece of it, little nugget, you know, along the way, and then it formulates into that bigger picture of what his calendar is and how we can um, see how the witnesses work in the Shamayim.
Yeah, it's just going to take a little time to understand time.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing that I pulled up about the stars, and this was about maybe 3 years ago. I got pretty hooked on it. I really didn't have any idea what was happening. I'm so happy today that Marissa, you showed me something that I had never considered. I had looked at the west, but actually it's all on the west, isn't it? And that's what I'm really, really pleased about knowing. Thank you so much. When I was looking at the belt of Orion, what I found was it's what's known as an equatorial constellation, so it never leaves the west to east line. It always seems to run around that, which for me got me a bit hooked on. Well, that's a key to something because the pyramids are set like that, and you've got the Sphinx with the female Virgo and the Leo lion at the back. You know, I really got it quite carried away, but I came up with no conclusions whatsoever. This is really good stuff, Marissa. Thank you very much.
You know, I feel the same way with the moon. I just have looked into so many patterns that the moon makes, and like I'm the same. Like I feel like I get so carried away, and then it's like, well, but where's the answer? You know? And then I'm just like left with all this research, and I'm like, like something just hasn't hit me quite yet on it. All in y'all's timing.
All in yours, chiming. Absolutely agree with you. For me personally, I think the moon's a bit of a red herring. Honestly, I really do. The way that I understand her character is that she's um, and I don't want this to sound out of turn or anything. I think she's a bit loose. I think she's a bit of a disease. She's absolutely the opposite to the sun. I did some work about the moon and the moonlight, and moonlight actually destroys vegetation, which is exactly the opposite of what the sun does. The sun prospers vegetation. And the sun prospers life. And I was doing some studies into moonlight, and again get carried away, and you find out that some of the planktons and things they resist the moonlight. They go deep down into the sea when it's a full moon. Now, most people would say, well, they're trying to hide from the predators that will be able to see them at full moon. But actually, I found out that the moon affects um, their body structure and their body chemistry with this cold light that she offers. They actually would destroy the plankton, so they actually go deep down to avoid that destruction.
But don't some people plant by the moon?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's the seed going into the ground. They're not planting the sprout. They're putting something into the ground at that time.
Oh, because it has to do with like the water and depending on the moon phase, I guess like water is drawn up into the roots or something.
Perhaps so. I mean, I haven't looked at how the moon affects water, but I think the moon is not a nice character personally. I think that it's if you look at all in Enoch when it talks about the sun and what the sun does, the moon is completely opposite. And I think that you said you found the part of Enoch where the moon description was removed. I'd love to look at that. And I think what you'll find is the moon is doing the opposite of the sun. The moon encourages decay. The moon encourages death. I mean, it's quite um, uh, uh, a nasty character in the story, I think.
So in Ben Sirach 43, it says, directly translated from the original Hebrew, "For the greatest of YAHUAH does, and in his words his nights shall prevail, and also the moon, the times of return, the government of the end and the sign of the world, in them the time and times of law, and the object of Esau in his time. New in its newness, it is renewed. What is terrible in its transformation?"
Yeah, boom. That's right there, Sirach. Yeah, those are the verses that, the people who say they want to use the mistranslated verse where it says, "Oh, the moon's for the Sabbath." No, that's what it actually says when you take it to the original language. It says nothing about the moon being for Sabbath. It says it's the object of Esau and for the end times governments, things like that. I think we brought that up on one of our first discussions, actually. We talked about it, showed it on screen there as well. Yeah, it is really wild because it goes to show the lengths they will go to change the wording of scriptures to fit, their own Babylonian moon calendar that they're following. And therefore, in turn, so many others are led astray thinking, oh, we have to cite all these slivers of moons because that's what the Jews are doing. Well, no, no, we should not be doing that. They don't follow his Torah. They spit in his face by refusing to say his name. They're not even of Shem. But yeah, I should probably stop before we get too deep into
I was
it.
just going to say, you're breaking your own rules.
Yeah, the funny thing about that, though, is all the videos we've done about them, like those ones haven't been flagged.
I know, but
Only the one.
time will tell because,
Yeah.
what's coming if Noahide and speaking against them in any way, they might get a wind. So we
Yeah.
could call them what? What's their code word?
The J-Man.
Synagogue of Hasatan?
Yeah, Synagogue of Hasatan. That's perfect. That's what they're called in scriptures. It's what Messiah calls them.
I had to share the testament of a nothing burger a couple times
Yeah.
today.
Yeah. I've been sharing that same one too, just the other day, actually.
Yeah.
Testament of a Nothing Burger. Yeah, I highly recommend giving that a watch. Type it in. It's on Rumble. You can just go to Rumble. You don't even have to have the app. Just go to Rumble, search Testament of a Nothing Burger. You'll see his channel pop up.
Yeah.
So it's kind of strange.
That is
But
so
click
much
on
good
That's so much good information on that Nothing Burger. Just be aware at the very end, though, he does promote the Black Hebrew Israelite doctrine, and maybe when you listen to it, please share with him what you know about that being a false doctrine. He just is real convinced of that. But the rest of the video, so much good information. I am so grateful for you both sharing it with me.
Yeah, and thanks for pointing that out as well, sister. Because he does do the whole Black Hebrew Israelite thing at the end, and it's like, okay, well, we know this is not true. It's a false doctrine that's being pushed to lead people and cause a divide. So, but yeah, thank you for pointing that out, sister.
Yeah, well,
'Cause
someone, got to him about that. He believed it, but he sure seems like he's someone who's searching truth. So perhaps he'll figure it out sooner or later. But I did try and share with him, but my comments kept being, well, they wouldn't even post. It wasn't him deleting them. I know they weren't, because I would write them out and then they wouldn't post. I don't know what was going on with Rumble. I even went to a new account, and my comments trying to explain to him just kept disappearing. I had the scripture and everything, and I never could post what I needed to. So perhaps someone else could.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, they don't like truth just as much as YouTube.
While you were sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna go back to what we were discussing. Anyone else have anything, or Ken, do you want to keep going on that moon theory?
Well, it's not a theory. It's the way that the moonlight affects really small creatures, not only in the sea but on the ground as well. It seems they need to hide from the moonlight because it interacts with their the structure of their body, down to cellular sort of level. So to protect themselves, they have to hide themselves. That's all I was really looking at. It must have been 2 or 3 years ago. There was an experiment where they covered a spinach leaf with half a spinach leaf with silver foil during a full moon, and the other half of the spinach leaf was exposed to the full moon. And when they examined it, the part that was protected by the silver foil was in good order, but the other half of the leaf that was exposed to the rays of the moonlight had actually broken down.
Interesting.
Well, if that was the case, then what about all the rest of the greenery and foliage in the world that is exposed to moonlight, so much throughout the month? We don't see the foliage breaking down.
No, because
our
you're right.
Gardens, our vegetables, our flowers.
Absolutely, and that's not the point that I'm trying to present here. The point is that the year is broken into 2 seasons. One of the season of light, which we're in now, so the best part of the day will be light, so everything's got a chance to prosper. But when the night takes over and there's the moon in the sky for a longer period of the night, that's when things start to decay and break down.
Yeah, interesting. Kind of makes sense.
So when we look at the year, we've got day and night. We've got if we were to break the year down into a day, at the moment we're at early morning, and we're going to have go to let's talk about a day. We're going to go to midday at the summer solstice, and then we go down towards dusk, towards the vernal equinox, and then we go into night, and then you go into deeper night, and then we come back out again. So the year really is a picture of a day as well. And with that in mind, what happens during the night, the second end of the year, the night time of the year, that's when things fall into decay and look like they're all dead.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, Sister Germaine just shared that in the chat. Yeah, don't you plant by the moon, right, sister? Yeah, yeah. We're in the fertile high growth season, is what she's saying.
Could I share an interesting finding I found in Jubilees?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Jeremy, when we were just talking about how, last, I think it was Thursday, there's a lot of golden gems and Jubilees that are still, there for us to uncover, especially as we walk out this calendar. And so I was rereading through Jubilees, and I was looking at the calendar. Hold on, sorry, let me get my notes. Okay, so we have the 4 seasons, right? And in each season, to start off the season are the gates. So out of curiosity, I, because Yah speaks through numbers. Hasatan has, his numbers, and Yah has his. And so when you add up all of the portals together that make up the entire year, that are like the leaders of the season, that are the year, you come up with 22. And it didn't really mean much to me at first, but then I remembered about something 22 being presented in Jubilees. And so when you go to Jubilees, (2:15), you are going to come up with, and these 4 kinds he created on the 6th day, and they were all together 22 kinds. So in 6 days, he did 22 kinds of work. And then the 7th day, was rest because everything was completed. But all of his works together were 22. And so if he declares the end from the beginning, the full amount of a year is 22 parts from each season. Or from all the seasons, added up together. And then it also says in Jubilees 2:23 that there were 22 heads of mankind also, from Adam to Jacob, and 22 kinds of work were made until the 7th day, and that this is blessed and holy, and the former also blessed and holy. And this one serves with that one for sanctification and blessing. So again, 22 is just confirming this calendar. And it was just another confirmation that just we are on par.
Wow. Boom.
Yeah. Well, and I thought it was interesting too when you were mentioning, in Enoch 82, on how, we don't have the last 2 seasons of the year. So essentially we're missing, you said 2 heads of thousands, 11. Half of 22 is 11. So.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, we could see where it's speaking about it in those Dead Sea Scrolls fragments, where they're talking about the leaders of the thousands there, but we can't see their names or what they're doing or really anything.
Right.
Just to
Or
throw
the
another,
whole book of, go
sorry,
ahead, brother.
just to throw another nugget. Wasn't there 22 sounds that Yah used to create everything?
Interesting. You know where that's found, brother?
I can't remember, but I also know that aren't there 22 characters in the Hebrew language as well?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
22 is another sort of number that we should work with, I think.
Very interesting.
yeah. So it seems like 22 is another maybe number to look out for.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
And just to throw another silly little bit of information, I just collect information and I can spout it out, but I don't do wholly too much research about it. But I did read a book about the stars, going back to the stars again, and it talks about, it doesn't just talk about, it describes um, each season. There's, I believe there's 22 constellations in the sky for each season, and each of the constellation tells the story of our salvation, but looking at it in 4 different perspectives. Constellation not just being Virgo or something, but a constellation being groups of stars.
Yeah, the 22, because there's 22 leaders in Enoch, and the 22 sounds. Yeah, really awesome.
When you add all the heads of the season, sister, it equals 22 to complete a complete year. And Yah made 22 kinds in the first 6 days of creation.
Yeah, yeah.
So going back to one of the seasons that I read about, I can't remember which one it was, but there was a crown, there was an altar, there was water, there was sacrifice going on, and in another season there was different objects in the sky that represented the salvation again that we're offering. I'm just trying to think what the book was now. In fact, it's upstairs. I'm going to get it.
Yeah, awesome. What does Strong say for number 22? Good question. I can try and look that up real quick. Let me see.
Just leave it.
So I'm looking for it. It's it's not wanting to show me the number 22. It's showing me the Strong's Concordance number 22. I could share that. So it says it's IBL, but I got to go through it, find the number 2, and then see that, because if when you type it into the search, it thinks you're looking. It's going to mistake you're looking for when it says 22 versus it's giving me the Strong's number 22. Oh yeah, and so we did want to have Brother Sean present, like give his testimony and just kind of show what he had with his little menorah thing, but they have a bad connection today, so unfortunately we're gonna have to do that at another time. I know Katrina shared some of what he has on her Facebook. Yeah, 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. Correct, Sister Sumi.
I've just got the book. It's called The Witness of the Stars, by E.W. Bullinger, and it covers the seasons of the year. The first season being the Redeemer. Then it goes on to the Redeemer's conflict, and then where are we? The Redeemed, and then the Redeemer overcoming, and it's broken into the 4 quarters of the season and the stars that relate to the story.
Yeah, I've heard that book actually. I don't know where, but I've heard of that. Interesting.
It's a bit sort of Christianized, but there is a lot of information in there that talk about how different cultures, like like Chinese and Arabic, have the same sort of symbology within their own constellation knowledge. Like crowns are repeated and altars are repeated, and certain other sort of elements of the I see the scroll repeated, but the names for some of the characters are changed, but even the names mean the same thing.
Wow. You have a lot of good information too, brother. Yeah, interesting stuff.
Yeah, this is too much for one person or 2 people or even 3 to come together and talk about. It's going to take an entire village.
Yeah, just like what we got here.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree because, if it was just a couple of us, we wouldn't have had all these confirmations and revelations and, all these things each and every one of us bring to the table. And, we all have a different puzzle piece of the same big puzzle. The more we can come together and, fellowship and share with each other what we have found, the deeper understanding we get.
Ellie, is your service any better? Could Sean present his stuff or no?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it.
Oh no. Well, we might have to try for like one day this week because I'm sure a lot of people can't wait for it. Or maybe this is just Yahuwah telling us to possibly just wait. I don't know. But yeah, as well.
Yeah, no worries. It doesn't have to be today. We can wait until you guys have a better signal as well. But yeah, I know Marissa waited a couple weeks to share what she found. But hey, it worked all in Yah's timing because, we found even, deeper understanding since then. It just seems like every week, coming together and being Echad, we find more and more.
And I would encourage people to do what Marissa has done this week, is just to get a bit passionate about it and sort of just step aside for it and give yourself a little bit of time to sort of really scratch around and have a good old dig around.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Marissa's been digging into it for quite some time. Yeah. Yeah, no worries, Sister Ellie. No worries. Yeah, I agree. It's not
Oh,
just a
Alex,
calendar.
that's so beautiful. I love what you said, but essentially, this isn't just a calendar. It's direction. It's safety. Ugh, chills. It's the way to the truth of life. That is beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting that what you shared there, Sister Sue. Um, Angel number 22 symbolizes selflessness, balance, harmony, ambition, discipline, confidence. It's associated with fulfilling your divine purpose and trusting you're on the right path. Boom. Yeah. Yeah, it's an angel number, not strictly biblical, but it's a number 22. Yeah, gotcha. No, that's still very interesting there, for sure.
Yeah, I feel like this year understanding the calendar really put in perspective for me, especially Passover and then now unleavened bread. I never really thought about the the timing of him going into the grave and then with him rising, and it wasn't consecutive day night day night day night. The first period of time that he was in the tomb was in the evening. So night came first when it came to counting for how long he was in the tomb. It was night, and then it was day one, and then night two. And it gives you more of a clearer understanding, especially with this calendar.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Miranda. And I believe that if we look at the calendar and the calendar year, and a year being a day, then he would have gone. When you look at Daniel, he talks about um, the 3.5 years, it actually gives the days. So for me, it's the Passover when his resurrection return will happen. To be a bit more clear about that, so we're looking at trumpets, and from trumpets you've got 3 days and 3 nights before his return. If you treat the year if you treat the year as a day, you have the return 3.5 seasons. Does that make sense to anyone?
Yes.
Yeah. Ah, interesting point. Yeah. Because yeah, like the fall seasons still have yet, because he
So
wasn't
that would
there
be
for
the
the
night.
fall.
Yeah. So the 4 seasons of the night. So the trumpets are blowing in the 4th season. And then you've got the 3 years, or 3 days and 3 nights, and then around comes Passover at his return.
Yeah, interesting. And yeah, like we were talking about our last discussion, that second Passover, the timing and everything of that as well. But thank you for joining, Sister Sue. Glad you could be here. Always glad to have you. Shalom to you, and pray you have a good night.
Oh, where does Sister Sue live?
I'm not sure. Yeah, if you're still there, if you can answer, where is it that you live there, sister? If not, it's all good. No worries.
If it's Sue Squibb, she's in the UK.
Oh, okay. Is it? So it's evening time there for you guys?
Yeah, almost 10 p.m.
Oh,
Ah,
wow.
goodness. Okay.
Such a diverse group. I love it.
I know, right? Yeah, they're in Australia at 7 a.m. Here in Phoenix, it's 2 in the afternoon. They're in the UK, 10 p.m. Wow.
Yeah, here in Missouri, it's almost 4.
Yeah. It's amazing we can all still meet, you know, and fellowship. And even though, those in Australia, their Shabbat has already passed, but we can still gather for the Sabbath.
Is anyone politically minded here?
I just know it's different wings of the same dragon in the political world.
Wait, what did you say, Ken?
Are there very many people here that are political and watching the numbers in politics?
I watch them and pay attention, but I know it's a show. But yeah, I do pay attention to what's going on though, for sure.
Like with the fact that they came out with that they have the Ark of the Covenant. Have you guys seen that? They
Yeah,
claim,
actually, yeah. Some
yeah,
CIA.
That came like a week out. That came like a week after they announced like the findings of the scan of the pyramid and what was under there.
Yeah, there's a whole lot going about that.
Yeah.
So there's actually a channel I found where a guy he was talking about that for like a decade apparently. And then when they finally came out with that scan, he's like, this proves what I've been talking about for like a decade. But I'm not surprised honestly. I'm sure there's a whole lot underneath that they're not talking about. And my lunch break, he goes into a lot about that as well.
Yeah, he does. And with the pyramids being lined up with the constellations, what Ken was talking about earlier also, it makes me wonder, if and this is just, me just kind of shooting ideas out there, with them being on like some sort of ley line also, and just kind of getting more power from the direction that they're right under of that constellation. Because if that, is an old power grid of some sorts, then, it makes you wonder about what kind of energy it's pulling from that area.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I like your thinking, sister.
Because we do know that's exactly, they know about all that stuff. That's exactly what they hide from us.
Oh boy, do they. They definitely know how to harness the power and oh yeah.
The cymatics and the sonoluminescence and, the healing frequencies from Yahuwah versus the bad man-made frequencies, like, the 5/G, things like that, Wi-Fi, all kinds of stuff.
Changing the piano tuning note.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you know that there was a contract between Britain and the US, and Britain and the US were to sign an agreement to separate the countries under the ruling of the king at that time? It was never signed.
Yeah, and
when you going back to Britain, Brit in Hebrew means covenant. British means covenant person, and Britannia, which is what we used to be called, Great Britannia, means covenant land. So we were a covenant Sabbath day keeping country, which we have. I'm absolutely 100% with this. But what's really interested in the news recently is that all the nations in the world have got to be paying this extra tax that Trump announced on just recently, and he has only asked 10% from the UK, which is the 10% that you would pay to the priests.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Wow. That's very interesting.
I'm sorry, Ken, you said 10% of tax for what purpose? What's the purpose of 10%?
It's 10%. Basically, Trump's gone around and said he's looked at all the countries and he's going to now charge import tax on any goods coming into America.
The tariffs.
Yeah, the tariffs.
The tariffs.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the only country that's got 10% is the UK or Britain, which I find it's interesting that we have this connection between the two countries that hasn't been signed off and now we're paying 10% in homage to, which would be a normal sort of priestly price to be paid towards the UK, towards US.
That is odd.
Another interesting thing is all the U.S. presidents we've had here in America, but like one or two are all related back to a king of England over there, which just shows, how deep those ties still go. And, even though they say, oh, we separated this and that, well, no, we actually didn't.
Well, and then when you think about the the American Pledge of Allegiance, how do we say we pledge allegiance to our flag and to the United States of America, and then to the republic for which it stands, which is the District of Columbia.
Yep, exactly.
And we have a similar district in here in London. In London, everyone thinks of London, but within London is called the City of London, and within the City of London are where all the financial houses are, and all the large business enterprises are actually located.
Yeah, I've heard about that actually. It's kind of like, just like, yeah, just like we got here, Washington, D.C. Like, interesting, very interesting.
And they have a Gog and Magog celebration where all the it's politicians and Knights of the Garter and all the sort of suspicious people go to Parliament, and they have to knock on the door, and the Queen sat there. And I think, the Queen, or it'd be the King now. But if you look at the regalia around where she's sitting, it's very, very, very suspect.
Yeah, I've heard about that too. The Gog and Magog festival. Yeah, didn't she light up that like 3-strand DNA thing that went to like the Tree of Life or something a few years ago?
Yeah, but yeah, that's right. And there's something about that ball that
Wasn't
she
that
pressed
right?
down.
Was that right before she died? Like I want to say months.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is my personal opinion, and I got nothing to base this on. But Queen Elizabeth wasn't supposed to be the Queen. It happened through default, through her father that decided to abdicate. One of her relatives decided to abdicate, and she ended up being put forward as Queen. And the interesting thing about the Queen of, I call her the Queen of England, or the Queen of the UK, was I believe that she was standing in the gap. She didn't allow too much nefarism to sort of happen in the UK. So for 70 years, we were all kind of quite sort of quiet and pleasant. She reigned for 70 years, which we know is 70 years is an interesting number biblically. And after that, the world's beginning to change. I mean, it's changed very quickly since she passed away. I do believe that she stood in the gap for a while.
Yeah, Charles is kind of a mess.
What, the World Economic Forum speaker?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The World Economic Young Global Leader or whatever, Klaus calls him. And that's coming into play too, because we got Trump over here talking about, oh, we're gonna get Greenland, we're gonna get Canada, we're gonna get Mexico. And the interesting thing about that is, that's all part of Albert Pike's, global government plan thing, the whole North American Union type deal.
So you saw that Iceland, like Trump wants to include Iceland just like he wants to kind of include Canada as like part of like North America. You saw that?
Yeah, yeah. And it's all part of that whole, global government plan.
Which is mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
They
don't
they have
forget, Christians, you won't have to vote again ever again.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, they're talking about Trump doing a third term and things like that too. They're
I think
pushing
that
him.
has to do with the republic, though, doesn't it? Versus a democracy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they're
We're
pushing him
supposed
up.
to be turned.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say they're pushing him up as this, world savior. Oh, he's bringing all this peace in the Middle East. This, that, and another thing. He's bringing peace over there between Russia and Ukraine, and they're really building him up, basically bringing in that whole, one world government system. That's my opinion.
But it's possible that Melania is the granddaughter or great granddaughter of Anastasia, who was part of the um, Russian monarchy that got killed by the Bolsheviks. So there could be some other possible links. I'm waiting to see. I'm watching and seeing. But Trump supposed to possibly bring us back to our original constitution. But I don't know. We'll have to watch and see.
Yeah, and that happened in the early 1900s. Anastasia's family.
Correct. The Khazarians, the Bolsheviks that went in and destroyed and just murdered, and then they did it again to Germany, just going in and murdering and destroying.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, exactly.
And then as far as, this is just things doesn't mean it's true, but some satanic ritual survivors say that Queen Elizabeth and Philip were seen him transform into Nephilim, the reptilians.
Oh yeah.
So we have that too. So who knows?
Yeah, I actually have a
Yeah,
video. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Nope, sorry, Jeremy. I overspoke over you, so go ahead.
I was just gonna say I have a video on my channel. It's called Lizards and Frogs, and I got pictures of the Queen and Charles and all that, and you can see their little snake lizard slit eyes.
Yeah, you see that in a lot of people where their eyes go slit, and news reporters, and there's a whole bunch of the reptilians that are hidden among us, possibly, I believe. So,
As do I.
Yeah, I think for me, I never. It's hard for me to just kind of like wrap my head around it, but we find ourselves in a season where, it's almost like truth is stranger than fiction, and I still don't know what to make of that stuff. But again, like when they can make TV shows and make jokes about stuff like that, and then you hear things like, you know, it makes you wonder how much truth is mixed in with error, because, you know, it wouldn't hold any merit if it wasn't true, and yet you've got them talking about it on mainstream. And oh gosh, somebody did a video about like Alec Baldwin kind of like poking fun at, you know, that they are another race too that aren't completely human. And it's just, you know, why say that? You know, why joke about that if it's not true? It's just one of those things that just kind of just, maybe it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Zelensky in
Did
Ukraine.
so I know that no, sorry, Ken.
I was just going to say Zelensky in Ukraine. He's the Khazarian Jew, a complete warmonger. He wants this war to go on. The money keeps coming in, and he's doing all right through it, if you know what I mean. And when you look at the guy,
Well,
the
I will. Sorry, Ken. I did it again. I'm sorry.
it's all right. I think we need to be sat around a table and chat away, don't we? When you go further into it, you're looking at these group of people, and there's I do believe there's a Masonic lodge that has these, and there's only 3 members to a particular Masonic lodge, and the only members are, and it's really strange group of people that you would put together. They are clowns, they are politicians, and they are actors, and they've got their own lodge. And when we look at the world and how it's all happening now, we're all looking at clowns and actors all the time, aren't we? It's just quite fascinating the way that everything's now in our face. And if we mentioned the Nephilim 30 years ago, no one would have a clue. But Nephilim, reptilian seems quite sort of common knowledge now. It's like they're almost flying it in front of our face now.
Well, yeah, it's interesting that you were talking about Zelensky because, you know, and clowns and actors and everything, because Zelensky, before he was president, was actually an actor, you know, and then Trump, before Trump was president, he was also an actor and a celebrity, you know? So
Exactly.
again, you know, you have to ask yourself, why are these people in those kind of positions? And actually, Ken, Trump did stop funding Ukraine and instead now is funding Israel. So he stopped giving Ukraine money and is asking actually for them to give resources back to us, kind of being like, hey, we didn't give you this money, we loaned you this money, and we do expect things back. So that's
absolutely.
about all I know on the political aspect.
Yeah, and the response here in Europe is we're going to form. I think it's called the Coalition of the Willing. Strange name for a group of European leaders, but they're called the Coalition of the Willing, and we are now supporting the war in Ukraine since even more since Trump has pulled out.
But who is controlling Ukraine? We took money away from Ukraine and are giving it to Israel, but who's controlling Ukraine? Who's controlling the world? Israel. So it really wasn't taken away. It's just been circumvented, right?
Absolutely, that's it. Got it.
Yeah, boom.
It's all a show. It's a stage.
And that goes along with, you know, them saying Trump is their Messiah. You know, there's several of them that are admitting to that. It's really interesting.
Well, again, you have Trump being bailed out by the Rothschilds in, I believe, the 80s. And, him being depicted as president started a long time ago. And I believe that they offered him to bail out of being in bankruptcy for the plan of being president when they decide, to set that up. So he's just upholding his end of the deal now, all these years later, for being bailed out in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because before the 80s, he wasn't really big or anything. And then all of a sudden, boom. And then, he's part of the WWE, WWF, whatever. And he's even putting ex-members of that, WWF community in high political positions. All actors, all actors.
And he resorted to Judaism, and now his face is on the Israeli coin I saw.
Yeah. They have that the Cyrus coin or whatever they call it. But yeah, it's got Trump's face on it over Cyrus.
Is that the same one that had like the depiction of the vaccine and the coronavirus and a whole bunch of other symbols on the back? Do you guys know is that the same one?
Yeah, it's that same one. Exactly. Yes.
That an Israeli coin, you say?
Yeah, they made it in commemoration because, when Trump was president last, he declared Israel, or not, sorry, he declared Jerusalem the capital of Israel and moved their embassy and all that stuff there. So that's when they made that. It's like the Cyrus coin or something with Trump and Cyrus, but his face is literally on a coin. On the back side of it has this like what Miranda was saying there, all these depictions of like needles and pentagram stars, like all kinds of stuff in there. It's wild.
Yeah, what's the name of the coin? I'll just post it because it was really interesting.
It's like the Trump Cyrus coin or the Temple coin, something like that. It's basically the Israel coin with Trump's face.
All right, I'm Googling.
And I think it has to do with their, third temple they're wanting to build, for the public because it's already underground. They're just doing the public one to like, yeah, But yeah, for sure, the signs of the times we're definitely seeing. There's definitely not a whole lot of time left. Uh, It's called the Temple coin.
No way! Called the Temple coin. Unbelievable.
Temple coin.
Unbelievable. The thing which really sort of not really, but when I look at Trump, he's still got his right ear. I thought he got shot in the ear. Where's the bit that's missing? Every time I look at him, I always think, where's your bit that's missing? But we know that he rubbed his ear and rubbed his big toe, just as the priest would do. And isn't that right?
There's different Trumps, though. It's not all the same Trump. I think there's differences in them. There's a different Trump that goes to the
Yes,
big
you're not wrong.
event. Yeah, so there's different Trumps. I mean, even Biden wasn't the same
Yes,
Biden,
the
and
guy. Yeah,
Elon Musk is not the same Elon Musk. He's been replaced. Hillary Clinton isn't the same. There's all these 2.0s or whatever. I don't know if they're clones or if they're actors
if
and
you
masks. So there's something.
it depends on what color they're wearing. So I think so Trump, the real Trump is the one that's wearing red, and the false one or clone or whatever wears the blue one. So it's kind of like the colors are like a color coded sign for the elite on which one is out and about, if that makes sense. There was this guy that did like a breakdown of it, and it was crazy.
But the guy who golfs is a different guy. So that's a different Trump. The golfing Trump. So that one is even different. And then the shoulders are different. One has wider shoulders, one has more narrow shoulders. And I think there's like 4.
Isn't there an interview where somebody's talking about that? The guy's like, yeah, there's many different Trumps. And it was like on some kind of, one of these mainstream news stations, but they were doing an interview with somebody. And the dude was like, yeah, there's many different Trumps. We got this one and that one and another one. You don't know which one you're going to get.
This
It's
is
all to
mad.
protect him. It's all to keep him protected. They said he's protected, that he's not even in the. He's not. It's not even him. The one who was shot wasn't him. So they've said this for 4 years now, that he's protected. I don't know.
Which when he got shot last summer, it was just so fake.
Yeah.
The acting was just so awful. When my husband told me about it, I was in the shower, I got out, and I saw it, and I was like, oh, fake. So fake. It's ridiculous. You're not going to get shot in the head and then put your head back on display to yell fight if you were truly in danger.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
Absolute fake. Yeah, I agree with you. It was completely staged. I think we could see it here in the UK, but it was just the interesting symbology with the. Oh, hang on, I've got to put my shoes on, because didn't he have to put his blood from his right ear to his right big toe? I mean, he's claiming some sort of authority or some sort of priesthood there, isn't he? I mean, that's what it was about more than the actual shooting.
Yeah, interesting.
CNN was there also, which they weren't going to be.
yeah, they made sure all cameras were on him. They said, "Okay, action." And everyone played their part.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. For sure. And then, like, what, a week later, he comes and he's got a Band-Aid, and then the next week after that, his ear's like, oh, it's perfectly fine. It's like he just had a
Yeah,
round
the
of
disgusting display. Yeah. And then people starting to bandage up their own ears because, oh, he was so brave. And let me see a scar, because you get shot in the ear, you're gonna have a scar.
Yeah, that round would have taken half his ear. He wouldn't have half of an ear. But, oh, wait, he's got his full ear with nothing wrong with it.
All the world's a stage.
Right, because even yeah.
I don't know. I still have hope that he is doing something for the trafficking. I mean, I hear from survivors that have supposedly testified in court, different places, and they feel he is doing something and trying to stop the trafficking. But I don't know. Like I said, it could be another narrative. But I'm praying that he truly is. If that narrative is true, I don't know. That's what I have to see. I know we can. I don't know. I really do hope he is bombing the dumbs and is carrying out what JFK was started to do, which is one of the narratives. Was trying to get rid of some of these evil people, and that's part. That's the narrative. But is it true? I don't know. Or is it just to keep people compliant, thinking, and hoping? But it's all in Yah's hands. It's in Yahuwah's hands. Oh, go ahead.
Absolutely. And if there's one thing that I have to say, I just went down this rabbit hole about a year ago, and I can't stay in it very long because it's extremely dark. But if there's one thing that I know, especially because of the stage that they set up, they set up their own hero for the story, because everybody looks to a hero to solve all the issues that they didn't even know were an issue. When Trump came on stage, child trafficking was, not widely talked about until Trump came on stage, right? Because he was a celebrity. He did slum it with these people. He found out these people were bad. He's bringing it to light. He's draining the swamp. It's unfortunately they set him up to be that hero. And, why didn't he talk about this when this was happening, when he was in the midst of it? All this stuff that's coming to light now, it's very dark, and it goes very, very, very deep. The United States alone yearly have 800,000 kids go missing a year. And that's kids that are just documented. I mean, these rings are, it goes so, so deep. We can't even begin to fathom how deep it goes. No, he's just the one that's playing hero because, like Jeremy said, Albert Pike, he wrote out each world war that was going to happen. This last one, World War III, is going to set up the stage of demolishing religion and bringing everyone together. Again, Trump is he's just that knight in shining armor that they've put on the forefront of, everything is bad. We're gonna, set him up to be the savior. No, he is bringing a lot to light. It is making people aware. Yah uses every single person, no matter if they are for good or for evil. He uses each and every person for that. But yeah, he is definitely a puppet, and somebody else is pulling his strings. They're allowing this information to come out as well too. They want to drown us with information so that it's harder for us to discern what is true and what isn't. So,
but
sorry,
it's opened my eyes,
very,
though.
very deep, dark rabbit hole, and I'm totally with you.
Yeah, but it's opened my eyes to what
it has.
truly is going on.
And, like you said,
I had no idea the world was so that way.
Yeah. I definitely don't see a lot of actors.
Yeah, and to go along with him being there saving all these children who are in distress, and I pray that is true as well. But we also have to remember, he's probably doing this also to be propped up as more of this savior type figure, like, oh look, he's saving the children, which it is absolutely a good thing. But I think it's more of a PR thing than him actually caring about saving them, in my opinion.
Absolutely. No, I am with you. I am with you. The PR stunt. That's what politicians do best.
Yeah.
The bosses are into it, so they're part of the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I thought JFK, because they say it started with JFK going against the elites, and that's why he got shot, because we were going to go gold back, right? And trying to bring us back to a republic instead of a democracy. But that it was a clone that got shot, and he was still alive, and all the things supposedly coming from that. And then I hear a testimony of a survivor who claims to have been there when JFK was abusing and Marilyn Monroe, and she was a victim. She was a slave, and she was a little girl at the time, and she shares her story about how JFK treated her and what went on, and she was a trafficked victim to JFK. So you hear that, and it's like, well, you don't know if the victim is true. You have to weigh it. But, but you hear all these different stories, and it's like, well, okay, then people put their hope in JFK, hoping he was still alive, and that his son is still alive, JFK Jr., but they're in on it. They're part of it, if that's true. So I know this has been a long journey, trying to figure out what's true or not. And it's focusing on the word and this calendar and finding truth and focusing on this has been the best thing, to figure out what his truth is and all that. So anyway.
Hallelujah.
I don't know. I think people, these people from they are fragmented. Who knows who they're saying they are? Who knows what's going on there? All we can do is pray for people and love them and understand that everything united years to be. I'm coming across information as JFK went with the Catholic that they killed within 30 days in the next Pope's direction, that his father, who was Knights of Malta, was the one that ordered his death. Stop.
Yeah, you were still breaking up a lot there, sister, but I heard quite a bit what you said. But yeah, exactly. Just pray for them.
But then there's the story that
They're just little children. When their minds are so fragmented, they don't even know what's going on.
It's that protection mechanism with the fragmentation to help them. But there is the story that JFK isn't even from the Kennedy family, that he's from the Cooney family, which is from Lebanon, that originates from Lincoln. So, I can't prove that or show that it's true. I don't know. It's one of the narratives, and but only Yah knows. He knows what the true, and like you said, we don't know what's true because there's so many narratives out there. And so there's a whole bunch of possibilities, but I have to pray that YAHUAH is in control and that we're available for whomever comes in our direction. We talked to a lady on our sofa the other day, and she might move onto our property. And we know she's fragmented. We know that the person in front of us was one part of her entity, and that we believe there's others because of her abuse. But we're not going to turn her away, and our arms are open to her and anybody else who brings our direction who might have been fragmented or hurt, and he desired us to minister to. So we shall see. But learning all this has been a tool for YAHUAH to use us to minister to others and know that many people are fragmented. Many people have different personalities. Many people have been abused. So it's all for his glory.
Yeah, so true. You know, it is all for his glory. You know, praise Yahuwah. Praise Yah, Sister Nicole. Awesome. Yes. You know, when you
You
allow Yah to
know,
lead,
verses coming to mind.
you're still
You know,
breaking
verse
up.
that's coming to mind. Okay. Can you hear me okay?
A little
He says,
bit. It's
judge nothing before time.
You're breaking up a lot.
Judge nothing before time. Okay. Oh, maybe I can text it.
yeah. I think texting it might help a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
text it, sister. Yeah.
yeah. Praise Yah, Sister Nicole. Yeah. When you have Yahuwah leading everything, you know He will guide and protect, 100%.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to pray for them children because it's just unbelievable how many disappear and they're being used for adrenochrome and all this other stuff, and who knows what they're all going through, but definitely need to keep them in our prayer.
Yeah, I absolutely agree for sure.
As well as the surviving adults who've been through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Definitely interesting conversations. I hope. Yeah, don't do anything on YouTube.
Well, it's bedtime here in the UK. It's on its way to 11 o'clock. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Enjoy your discussion. I really, 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 really do enjoy being part of this group. And I wish you a smashing week, and I'll catch up with you on the next Shabbat.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for joining, brother. We always appreciate
Uh,
your input.
yes, thank you. And hopefully we'll get to talk to you on the Sabbath, the last Sabbath of unleavened bread, which is on Wednesday, right?
Yeah, actually,
This
yeah.
coming Wednesday.
Yep. See you then.
Shalom, brother.
Okay. All right.
Shalom.
Yeah, definitely interesting topics as always.
So, could I talk about a few things?
Yeah, absolutely. Go right ahead.
Okay. So, it's on one of my favorite discussions about the little season, and I keep, the more and more I think about this calendar and trying to understand the time that we're in. And everything is just, I tell you, Yah says he has, each person he has appointed for a certain season. And I love those terms because it really, especially with the calendar and how we're starting to understand it, you can't have one without another, right? And you can't have something start before it's time or season. And so I have a thought that I wanted to kind of present everybody with because, especially in a time of such deception, it's crucial for us to be able to put things back in order, right? Because everything is, especially by the lying pen of the scribes, has been hidden and misconstrued or destroyed completely, or at least, to our knowledge right now, we don't have much. So we know that Pesach has been fulfilled, right, by Yahushua when he died and rose again, and he fulfilled that feast. But when I think of the Feast of Tabernacles, what are you guys' thoughts about that also being fulfilled during the millennial reign? Because I think of the parable of the wedding supper when he goes to invite his family and, they're busy or they're out of town. So then he goes out to the streets and he invites anybody who will just come. And he fills up those spots with people who weren't on his original guest list, but that were willing to come and partake with him of the meal, of the marriage supper. So again, I think of the millennial reign, and that's him literally tabernacling with us. We know that the Gentile nations were invited to come and celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles with them. And if you didn't, your land was left desolate. So, when we think about the calendar and the ages and everything, that was around September, October time, and essentially the last feasts of the year. So, what do you guys think about that?
Wow, very interesting. Yeah, because Sukkot would kind of represent, that millennial reign aspect, because the tabernacling and all of that. Yeah, interesting.
That makes total sense because it says that during the millennial reign, that was a commanded pilgrimage. And the nations, the peoples who did not pilgrimage to the holy city to observe Sukkot, those nations, those countries did not receive rain for 1,000 years, which might be why there's vast areas of desert now that on old ancient maps they weren't desert. They were green lush, and so possibly it was fulfilled, which makes sense. And I used to wonder, well, how could people across the world pilgrimage to the holy city? But we have to remember there was a lot of technology in our past that we aren't aware of because if we're living in a season of deception, so much is kept from us. And so, there used to be airships that transported people vast distances very inexpensively or even free because there was free energy. So you're right. Sukkot probably was fulfilled during that. Sukkot signifies when Yahushua walks among the people and tabernacles with them. So I can now understand why that was a commanded feast. Before, I wondered why not a commanded feast, but why that was commanded to be a pilgrimage when the other feasts were not. You just answered a question for me. Something I've been wondering about.
Well, yeah, so because I was, again, when I think about the seasons, and again, Jeremy in Enoch 82, when it doesn't talk about the last 2 seasons of the year. So I think of time as like a big, great year. And so the only seasons that are not accounted for are tabernacles and winter. And then when I think of Satan's little season, I kind of think of the term that some people use, when hell freezes over. Because I have also seen maps, old maps that date to about the 1500s, of it showing a flat realm, but instead of Antarctica being frozen like it is now, it actually showed it being green and with animals. And so was that during a time where it wasn't frozen? And then, I think about the marriage supper and the, us being the bridegroom. When you look at old Eastern wedding customs, the groom and the father would go and prepare a house to present to the bride. And then you would have the ceremony, and then you would have the marriage supper. And then after that, that's when the groom presents the bride with the home that he has prepared for her. So you can say essentially, we're not really in a season of where we have prophets anymore, of where we have, we don't really have Yah speaking to people like he used to through his prophets, right? I mean, we have books, thankfully, and we definitely feel his spirit. But like having actual prophets here, we don't have it. So we're like in a dark, cold season. And I think about Satan's little season kind of being like winter. Everything's kind of frozen, and it's kind of a time of just darkness, and everything's kind of dead. And again, I know we're supposed to partake in the feast, and that's, I'm not saying not to. I'm just saying, just thinking year-wise and season-wise, how it's just all starting to kind of click and just make more sense. Because the thing that we're waiting for now, essentially, is to be presented with our home, because everything else could be already fulfilled, except for, the bride being presented her home.
Wow. Yeah.
And winter is also the shortest season of the year. Winter is also the shortest season of the year. So again, I think of short season, little season. It's the smallest season of the year.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting. Katrina, what are your thoughts? No, yeah, that very good points. Very interesting. And just like the signs of the times we're seeing, it's going back to that same point. It's that, we're not going to the millennial kingdom, but we're going to go to Judgment Day. So we still, if we follow his ways, follow Yahuwah, we still have a shot at making that kingdom and having eternal life,
Right. Because, again, in marriage terms, the consummation of the marriage is two becoming one. And essentially we're looking to be one with Yah again. where we can be with him, because sin has separated us for so long. He's looking for, he's looking for us to be one with him.
Yeah. So,
And in order to do that, we have to be spotless.
yeah, exactly.
So he's looking for that spotless bride.
And that consummation is going to happen when heaven and earth become one. Wow, that just made me think of that, what you said.
Yeah, because remember, that's, when we're one with him, that takes out the sun and the moon and stars being, the timekeepers, because his light is going to be what we're in. So, essentially it's like it's going from, again, we're not going to be in marriage or giving in marriage anymore, because we're going to be at one with him again. We're not going to be separated from him like that. So there's no need for the sun, moon, and stars. And that's when we're going to be like the angels.
Yeah, exactly.
Does it fall into line with what Ken was saying about Passover, with getting our new clothes? And I mean, he was just thinking that through. I don't know if you were part of that conversation, but with Passover coming and then becoming clean and then getting the new clothes, and at that point, becoming spotless, and then preparing for the wedding and the marriage. I mean, that kind of rang with me, whether it's true or not. I mean, that was something that we get the new clothes after Passover, and then prepare for the wedding feast in the fall.
That makes a whole lot of sense to me, honestly.
Yes. So my mom looked up, when she looked at the feast, it's a part of sanctification. So that's why the feasts aren't done away with, right? Like no jot, no tittle is going to by any means be done away with until all is fulfilled, or until heaven and earth pass away, not one jot and one tittle. And so these feasts are in the process of sanctification to have the spotless robes. And in Second Esdras, which I really do encourage everybody to read Second Esdras or Fourth Esdras, it's Second, Fourth / Fourth Esdras, because Second Esdras 2 verse 37 says, "O receive the gift that is given you, and be glad, giving thanks unto him that has called you to a heavenly kingdom. Arise up and stand. Behold, the number of those that be sealed in the feast of YAHUAH, which are departed from the shadow of the world, and have received the glorious garments of YAHUAH. Take your number, O Zion, and shut up those of yours that have clothed in white, which have fulfilled the law of YAHUAH." And I mean, it doesn't get much clearer than that, fulfilling the law and being sealed in the feast of him that's bridal talk. That's going into the kingdom.
Where is that in Second Esdras, Miranda?
That is Second Esdras 2:37.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, Second Esdras and Jubilees, and I'm sure all of you guys already know this, but all these books are just dripping with information. Again, to question Little Season is, I get a lot of, I understand a lot of people's hesitant. I understand people being hesitant about it, but we have to come from a place where we aren't of the mindset of, this was promised to me, this is what I was looking forward to, because also in Second Esdras, he talks about each person being prescribed a generation that they're going to be here within the world. And especially with time, you can't get to the top of the stairs without climbing them first. And time is the same thing. You have to have one consecutive thing after another. You can't rush ahead. And so it was very disheartening for me too, thinking, oh, I won't get to partake in the millennial reign. And I bet it was absolutely fantastic, but we're still here. We still have a purpose. There are people of his that are, that he knows are going to be in his number of children that are going to be with him. And so it's just a determination of, what is our purpose within this generation that we were born in to do? Because we can't do what they did. We can't do what the generation did in the millennial reign. We all have the same goal, but we have different jobs to get to that goal.
Absolutely. Well said. And yeah, there's supposedly actually John Pounders, I don't support him or anything, but apparently he's going to host some kind of debate, are we in the millennial kingdom or not? And he's going to have, someone for it and then someone against it. So I don't know, it seems like it may be really interesting just to, watch it, listen maybe.
I like listening to John Pounders. I feel like in some or more areas, he still kind of sounds very Christianized, but he at least knows important stuff and is, there to help question the narrative and get people to start questioning things too.
I listened to him in the beginning, and lately they've been very arrogant on that channel.
Yeah, they've been very arrogant for quite a while actually, when they started, bashing on the name Yahuwah and the people that use the name Yahuwah or any other, pronunciation that they don't use. They call you like a sacred namer. They say you're this, you're that, and another thing. And they really trash people who use the name Yahuwah. And, they started doing that a couple years ago. And that's when I stopped watching them. Really.
Oh, I didn't know they did that.
Same. They really haven't fruit lately at all.
Yeah, it is. It's very, the arrogant, prideful attitude that they have. But yeah, I used to watch them too, years ago. And it's funny because, they used to I don't know if they still do, but at the beginning of their videos, they had, Yahuwah right there in Paleo Hebrew. But then, they're bashing on people that use Yahuwah. It's really strange.
I thought it was Yahweh that they were bashing on, wasn't it? No?
Yeah, it was Yahweh, Yahuwah, like any pronunciation. Like they were pretty much bashing on it.
I didn't know about Yahuwah back then when I listened to it, so I'll have to. I just know that I listen to them. They have good information, but it's not. It's twisted, and I don't want to listen to something that's being twisted. Not on purpose. It's what they completely believe, and they can support it. It's just not where I'm at in my walk, and so therefore I don't want to listen to what they're saying.
Exactly.
It's hard because I'm cautious of who I'm listening to, so that I'm going on the path that I feel I'm supposed to go on.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. I was just bringing it up because, he is hosting a debate about it. So yeah, I don't know. I might listen to it because I know all their false doctrines.
Yeah, I'm not too fond that they do kind of I don't know if they support, but they definitely talk about the Book of Jasher quite often. So that always makes me a little leery when they talk about that, and I just kind of try to skim over that part.
Yeah, they
Was
do
that
talk about it
in
a
the
lot.
Ethiopian Bible? Was that in the Ethiopian Bible, Jasher?
Is Jasher in the
No,
Ethiopian Bible, Jeremy?
no, I don't think so.
Yeah, and it's not in the Dead Sea Scrolls either. And it's
No.
um I've read through it. God Culture's done studies on it, and it's just a no-no book.
Yeah, I read
It
through it
doesn't fit.
too,
Yeah.
but
It does fit scripture at all.
so why is it put in if it was, they say it was in the 1611, it was the 1500s. I mean, how's that got in if it's not part of the Ethiopian or the 1611 or the 1500? Anybody
Because
know?
they are trying to insert Jasher I believe that they're trying to say the 66 books does reference Jasher 2 times. But what I believe they did is they wrote a book in place of Jasher, or I'm sorry, in place of Jubilees, and said that it was Jasher.
Yep.
Say that again. What? Ju- so they wrote a book, said it referencing it's Jubilees is Jasher and Jasher is Jubilees. No,
So basically, what the two references in scriptures that mentions or references the book of Jasher, it's not speaking about this modern book that we know of as Jasher today. The furthest that book can be traced back is like the 1600s. And it was compiled, like, you can just tell the rabbinic influence it has on it and, the Jewish mysticism in it. It's not the book of Jasher referenced in scripture. It was written well after it. So the book of Jasher, which God Culture makes a very good video about, he goes and shows that the book of Jubilees that we know today is actually the book of Jasher being mentioned in scriptures. And he shows verses and things that would match up with what's going on to prove exactly why he thinks that. And I think it's really pretty solid evidence. I would agree with him.
I'll find that then.
Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. My son came in and was talking, so I thank you
No
for
worries.
explaining that.
But yeah, I have a video testing the book of Jasher as well, and just reading the first 4 chapters, I found dozens of either additions, things that say opposite of what they say in Genesis, and just a whole list of things just in the first few chapters. So I've read the whole thing before already many times, and when I was doing my testing video, it was a while ago, I only got through the first 4 chapters. I think that's pretty much enough because you could just see, like, I'd have to go back and look again to see the exact specifics, but there was quite a few. They put all the sin, that came from the Watchers and all that. They put that on men. They say, I think it was Tubal-Cain, that he was some kind of, Moses-like prophet. He was given visions, and he could see the future because Yahuwah showed him. Well, no,
Basically Tubal-Cain was what Enoch actually was. Like the
yeah,
first writer. Yeah, exactly what Jeremy said.
and
I'm
it's
trying to
just kind
find my 1500 Bible and I can't find it. I wanted to see if it was what was in there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's really included in too many canons.
Jeremy, was Jubilees in the 1611 KJV?
I think it was, if I remember right. I think
That and
Jubilee.
Enoch.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Enoch.
And Esdras too, right? Was that also in the
Yes.
1611? Mm.
But they say Jasher was too. That's why I'm like, okay.
I don't remember Jasher being in there. I mean, it could have been, but I don't remember if it is or not. But, just because it's in there doesn't mean it's legit. Just like the Ethiopian Bible, like they have two Enoch in there and a bunch of other, straight up Catholic writings as well at the very end. So, I mean, discernment is key, and testing everything to his word is also key.
I just found my 1560 Geneva Bible, so I was I'm going to look in it to see if it's there.
Yeah, let us know. Yeah, the Geneva Bible. Isn't that the one that talks about the millennial reign already happening and it gives like a date? Or is that a different one?
No. That would be
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it's one of the Bibles that speaks about that. And, it says this is the millennial reign that happened in such and such date. I don't remember what Bible it was that says that.
Well, now I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Well, this is in Old English, so it's really difficult to read.
Yeah, Old English is kind of tough.
It makes me wonder if they hadn't started, started the public school system, basically started at the same time all those orphan trains and orphans was also being, happening. The public school system, being in starting up in mass quantities like that when people just used to send their kids to Sunday school. That's how you get the term Sunday school, was because their kids would go and learn one day out of the week, and then they would be home on the farm or at the house helping, instead of being at school, 5 days a week, 7 to 3. They would only have a few short hours on Sunday school to learn, and then public school system happened in the early 1900s, and here we are. So it makes me wonder if we would know Old English if public school system wouldn't have come in. And
Interesting. Yeah. No, that makes sense because, they established that, they changed the writing and all that, they changed history, they changed the shape of the place we live, you know?
absolutely.
I posted the books, and Jubilees or Jasher are not in the Geneva Bible. But Esdras is, and Ecclesiasticus is, and Maccabees, but neither is Enoch.
Interesting. Oh, they got some interesting books in there. Is that the Song of the Three Children? Interesting. Some books I haven't heard of before. Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Any suggestions on a good Hebrew lexicon? Because I always worry about the internet going down and not being able to test. I just got those 2 Septuagints that you recommended by Lexham Brenton, the Lexham
Yeah,
English Septuagint. So I just got those, but then today because I keep referencing Hebrew, I'm like, what if the internet goes down? I'm wondering, any suggestions on a good Hebrew?
I have the interlinear. That's a really
Okay.
good one. And they in the interlinear they actually translate Chodesh as it should be, as new month, which is really cool. Yeah, the interlinear, it shows a lot.
Is
It's a
it
really good.
Hebrew Greek?
Yeah, I'd have to double check. I think it's got
Okay.
Hebrew and Greek. Yeah. Yeah, the interlinear one, they actually translate things pretty properly. You know, it's not always perfect, but
I'd like to know what it says for Numbers 9:10. Somebody, we were talking, and why I didn't want to do Passovers because I'm a hospice nurse at this time, and I didn't know if I would be taking care of somebody who passed. But she says Numbers 9:10 said something about, speak to the children of Israel, saying, if any one of you or your posterity is unclean because of a corpse, or is far away on a journey, he may still keep the Lord's Passover. So I'm just wondering what the original says for corpse. I don't.
isn't speaking about second Passover there? Like if you're unclean for it, and then that's for what verse was it again? Sorry.
Numbers 9:10.
Yeah. So that's second Passover. 9:10 is the verse you just read, and then 11 is such people are to observe it at twilight on the 14th day of the second month. They are to eat the lamb together with the unleavened bread and bitter herbs.
Okay. I just stopped at that one and was trying to figure it out. All right, second Passover. Okay, good. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. And yeah, that one actually, yeah, for the Septuagint there, Sister Sumi. And there's also one for the Masoretic as well, the lexicon. But yeah, that's a good one. Septuagint lexicon. Yeah, I would definitely get, as many different Bibles as you can, just to be able to compare them all with each other. Because of course, we all know, some add and change and remove things here and there. So it's best just to get as many Bibles as you can. And of course, I recommend, the Dead Sea Scrolls books, get as many of those as you can. Like the complete Dead Sea Scrolls, a new translation. There's separate books like the one I shared earlier, like the Book of Enoch in Aramaic and things like that. And the ones that'll show like each separate books like that, like for example, the Aramaic Book of Enoch, it'll have its translation there, like in the original Aramaic, And then underneath that, it's going to show the English translation, kind of like they do with all the rest of the Dead Sea Scrolls. If you get their separate translations, it'll have the original scroll, what it says, and then underneath will be the translation. And hey, Shabbat Shalom, Tabitha. Glad you can make it. It's always good to get as many books about the Bible and of the Bible as possible, in my opinion. I have a whole bookshelf full.
Yes, I had to buy a new bookshelf to start fitting all the books I was starting to get.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, and that's exactly why I got them too, in case, the internet goes out or, they try to hide or remove something from the internet. Well, we got a copy of it as well. And for things, sometimes when you can't, like for example, with 4Q324D, you're not going to find that scroll anywhere. It's not even published in a book. So in that case, you could print it off, like from a printer, and then, laminate or do what have you with the pages to keep preserved. Or you can even, there's sites where you can make books out of things and they're turned PDFs into books for you. So there's all kinds of options to actually have physical copies of things rather than internet. Hey, no worries. We always record all of these, sister. So no worries that you're late. Shabbat Shalom and welcome. Yeah, pretty awesome discussion today. We went through the findings. We found chapter 82 of Enoch is actually missing half of it. We found that other half, although very fragmented out, but it's in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And then, today is, the day Yahusha rose right there at sunset. Boom. And then tomorrow before the sunrise would be when Mary goes to the tomb, finds it empty, and then sees him, but goes to touch him, and he says, "Don't touch me yet." And there's reasons for that. So yeah, praise Yah. Praise Yah.
Again, just another instance of him putting Hasatan to shame. This really isn't a good season for him because, he was put to shame with Abraham being faithful and willing to sacrifice Isaac. He was put to shame when the Egyptians, crossed the sea and when the Israelites crossed the sea and the Egyptians followed in after them and Yah caused the sea to go back. And then, once again, Yahusha overcoming death and sin and rising again in the dark just to show that he is, has overcome darkness as well. It's just so beautiful and poetic.
Yeah, amen. 100%. Yeah. So, different Dead Sea Scrolls. Giza Vermes copy, yeah, it's been tampered with, but it's still going to contain a lot in there. There's a book also with the findings of Cave 7. I'd have to find the name of that book again. But it's by Bill Cooper. And it's about the findings of Cave 7, which contains the New Testament fragments. And then there's various authors that have translated the scrolls themselves, and they put them out in their own separate books. Like each scroll maybe not each scroll have its own separate book, but a lot of them do. Like the link I shared earlier with the Book of Enoch in Aramaic from the Dead Sea Scrolls. There's a few other ones that'll have like singular scrolls, like I think Jubilees. For sure, Enoch. But a lot of the major finds in there, they're gonna have their own separate books on them as well. So it'll have like the translation of the scroll right there. Well, it'll put it right there in Aramaic, and underneath that, it's gonna have the English translation of what it says. So really, whatever you can find about the Dead Sea Scrolls online, I would probably recommend getting it just to have it and see and read through. I got one about the War Scroll. I got the Book of Enoch. I got Book of the Giants. There's more I still need to get with the Dead Sea Scrolls, but I've been doing a lot of it online because it's kind of easier to find. But yeah, I'm still building my collection as well, and I need to get a lot of these Dead Sea Scroll books as well. And there's ones I know Victor, he talks about a few good ones on his channel as well, even though he follows the Zadok calendar, but he does a week intercalation method. But he's still Dead Sea Scrolls Bible. That's a good one too. Yeah, there's a whole bunch. Yeah, thank you for sharing, Sister Rebecca. And there's also even ones about the older finds at the Dead Sea Scrolls. There's, what is it called? Fragments of a Zadokite scroll. And that's about the findings that they found in the, because they found the Dead Sea Scrolls in the late 1800s. So that's about what they found then. And then I think it was like in the 16 or 1700s, they had originally found the Dead Sea Scrolls. And that's where they had a lot of the complete books and the scrolls. But there's not a whole lot about that. It's very like hidden. They make it hard to find that.
So, what about the fragments of Mary Magdalene? Any thoughts on that?
Were those in the Dead Sea Scrolls?
I said they were found. If you the Zadokite, if you look up, I looked up the what you just said, but it has the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, and
I think
and
that's one of those Gnostic finds, and they weren't in the Dead Sea Scrolls,
okay,
but they try to connect it to them because that's the Essenes that they're talking about. So when they label the sons of Zadok, they label them Essenes. It always gets intertwined with that. I think they did that on purpose to kind of be like, oh, look, all these Gnostic books are connected with them. Well, no, they're actually not. Oh, they didn't. They don't have Enoch in that one. Interesting. They do have a lot, like the one I shared earlier, the Aramaic Book of Enoch, with the fragments from the Dead Sea Scrolls. That's probably one of the good ones. And yeah, I got quite a few books myself as well. So many. I got some about there's some older books I got that They connect one of the pharaohs of Egypt with Moses. They kind of walk it through scriptures and the evidence that they have there. I forget what it's called. I have to take a look, but quite a few books though, and the more the merrier, I say.
I want to say Ron Wyatt also found his wife wrote a book about Joseph's Egyptian name that was given to him when he was made second to Pharaoh, which was like Nakpak Panea or
Yeah,
something.
that's right.
And they found that name on a tablet, and they even found a reservoir kind of thing where possibly the grain that he had harvested was kept and everything. And it's a very short little clip, but Ron Wyatt's wife did a pretty good find on that one.
Yeah, that's right. I'd forgotten about that, but yeah, Ron Wyatt's books. Yeah, let me share that link again for you, sister. 1 second. So here's the link. This is to the online book of it, but you can find that same book on like Amazon or wherever as well. But yeah, no problem. That's going to show also the fragments after Enoch 8220 as well, which is a really amazing find because it just validates what we've all been talking about here for a while. Yeah, no problem. Didn't didn't you say you had something you wanted to bring up earlier, Miranda? Or was that what you already talked about?
Yeah, I kind of already touched base on most of what I wanted to talk about. Again, I don't mean to sound like a broken record or anything, but Second Esdras really kind of just gives you a good shadow picture of the millennial reign. And I wrote down a couple others, and yeah, I think there's a couple other things. Hold on, that I wanted to ask. Because I know that there's a lot of people. Katrina and I were talking about this earlier, and there's the little season is getting quite the flare up, right? You've got so many people that are like, oh, that makes so much sense, and then other people that are like, no, it's a doctrine of devils, and and again, I understand, but it's not biblical. It's biblical. If we're not going through it, then somebody's going to be going through it, right? And that doesn't mean that they're talking about a doctrine of devils. It's just a lot in time that has to happen right before the great white throne judgment. So that time has to happen, right, in order for judgment to come. So it's what brings about the final judgment. And so again, in Second Esdras, there's a lot of people that want to be like, but wait, like, what are we doing here then? Because wasn't sin eradicated and everything? And the millennial reign, there really isn't like specifics. You kind of have to try to understand the parables that Yahushua gave the disciples and everything. And literally what it is that time, one, was a rest for his saints, and two, to make disciples of nations. That's what the disciples went out to do. Yahushua came, and they were still preaching the word of Yah to the nations. Again, inviting everybody to the Feast of Tabernacles is a big one. And so, but evil was not eradicated completely. You just had the accuser bound, because, in the beginning, we've always had free will. And Hasatan came in, and he didn't force us to do anything because it takes two to tango. He just came in and deceived. And then after the deception of, you will be as gods and you will surely die, then you have him starting to accuse us. So when the millennial reign is going on, we just have the accuser bound. But the seed of sin is still in us. It hasn't been eradicated yet. Because essentially what happens again is it's kind of like in the garden all over again. You're left with a choice without anybody to accuse you and without you being able to blame, Hasatan. It comes down to you and your decision. Who are you going to choose to serve? Now that the deceiver is bound. And so, 2 Ezra 4, verse 30 says, "For the grain of evil seed has been sown in the heart of Adam from the beginning, and how much ungodliness has it brought upon unto this time," talking about the time of Ezra, "and how much shall it yet bring forth until the time of the threshing come." So, again, I have to say, like, the harvest, the wheat and the tares, that's already happened. That's already been, the harvesters have already done that portion. They've already plucked up everything. And now comes the threshing, because you have your harvest and then the threshing comes after. So, let me pull it up. It goes into, again, just the genealogy again of 430. Okay, so now ponder by yourself how great fruit of wickedness the grain of evil seed has brought forth. And when the ears shall be cut down, which are without number, how great a floor shall they fill? And then I answered and said, how and when shall these things come to pass? Wherefore are years few and evil? And he answered me, saying, do not hasten above the Most Highest, for your haste is in vain to be above him, for you have much exceeded. Did not the souls also of the righteous ask the question of these things in their chamber, saying, how long shall I hope on this fashion? When comes the fruit of the floor of our reward? And unto these things Uriel the archangel gave them and said, even when the number of seed is filled in you, for he has weighed the world in balance, and by measure he has measured the times, and by the number he has numbered the times, and he does not move nor stir them until the said measure be fulfilled. And then I answered, O YAHUAH that bears rule, even we are full of impiety, and our sakes peradventure it as the floors of the righteous are not filled, because of the sins of them that dwell upon the earth. And so he answered me and said, go your way to a woman with child, and ask of her, when she has fulfilled her 9 months, if her womb may keep the birth any longer within her. And I said, no, she cannot. And he said unto me, the grave and the chambers of the souls of the womb are like the womb of a woman. For like the woman that travails makes haste to escape the necessity of the travail, Even so do these places haste to deliver those things that are committed unto them. For from the beginning, look what you desire to see, and it shall be shown to you. So again, it shows that each person in their time, Sheol can't hold all of us. You know, a woman can't bear usually more than one child per time. The world can't hold us all either at one time. We're each prescribed a season to be here.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too. Because yeah, you know, we are all here for the season we're supposed to be here for, and we all are special to Yahuwah. We do all have a purpose. It's just, you know, we're in the time of the sinners right now. So a lot of the sinners, they're not going to repent. They're not going to realize their purpose. And unfortunately, you know, they're going to go to the lake of fire unless they do repent. So, you know, it's why it's very important to understand, you know, his law is not done away with. It wasn't abolished. You know, we're still to be following all of that. Everything that's around the priestly laws and the priestly duties, we're still to be following. And even though we are in Satan's little season, we could be in Satan's little season, which, you know, I'm definitely thinking we are. You know, we still have a shot at making the new kingdom and having that eternal life. It's still the same goal.
Yeah, and you know, just like the you know, like the books that are written in the 66 books, they're all for us. They're for anyone who loves Yah and wants to get to know him better. It's kind of like his biography, right? Of how and why and you know, where he made us and for what purpose and everything. And so like it's a book that gets to know him. But it wasn't to us. It's for us, but it wasn't to us. Like the book of Revelation is for us to read and to know and to try to understand, because the more we know about the past, the better prepared we are for the future. But it just wasn't to us. It was to them at that time.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, that's because we even see, you know, the saints and the graves were open when Messiah was still right there. It's written. So, I mean, you know, that I believe that's what, you know, these things started happening. The millennial reign was like, boom, happening right there. And, you know, they all talk about how it's coming very soon, very soon, very soon. Well, 2,000 years later isn't very soon. And not to mention, you know, there is a lot of evidence, like 700 to 1,000 years have been added to our timeline that we know right now.
Right. And, you know, and everybody wants to talk about, you know, how you know, how I guess that they thought that they were going to be part of the first resurrection when, like you just said, when Yahushua rose, it said saints rose too and went into the holy city, and there's people that saw them. So they were resurrected. I would say that was the first resurrection. And it's, you know, and when you think about the first resurrection and the second resurrection, the only part of you know, the allotted time that you don't want to be a part of is the second death, right? We don't want the second death because we're not to fear man that can kill the body, but fear Yah that can kill the body and the soul, because it's appointed to every man to die one time. You know, we have to die in these fleshly suits that we're in right now, because again, that we have the sin of Adam within us. But it's the second death that involves the taking of the soul that is in Yah's power to do, that we don't want to be a part of. There's nothing wrong with being part of the second resurrection, but you don't want to be part of the second death.
Yeah, exactly. That's where you're thrown into the lake of fire, and your soul is basically extinguished. Yeah, you definitely don't want part of that.
And the other thing I wanted to just kind of briefly mention was, again, doing more confirmations about dates in Jubilees. I know you have written on your calendar, Jeremy. So in the fourth month, so the head of that fourth month is not only is that a seasonal intercalary month? That is, isn't it?
The fourth month, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so not only were the abysses closed, but that's also the same month that angels appeared to Abraham to tell him that he would be given a son by Sarah. And that's when she laughed and was like, "No, I'm 90 years old. I can't bear a child." But it's also the same month that Adam and Eve went out of the garden. And I was talking to Katrina earlier, and I didn't put two and two together whenever I was first reading it, because there's so much packed into Jubilees. But there's 45 days in between when Hasatan had deceived her and they committed the sin versus when Yah kind of booted them out of the garden. And I don't know why 45 days after. Why didn't he immediately, kick them out?
Yeah, interesting. I think there's a lot of hidden gems in Jubilees like that, and it's going to show us, these abominable days versus clean days. And you know exactly why it's saying, we shouldn't put an abominable day on a clean day. Things like that. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, like when I was going back and reading it, yeah, I was like, well, why did it take so long? And again, if it wasn't important, he wouldn't have had it, down and recorded. So yeah, it does make you wonder why it took a little over a month for them to go back out. But it's interesting, right, that it was on the head of the fourth month
Yeah,
that's when they went out. So kind of like, Adam being kicked out of the garden, and then Abraham being told that Abraham was going to conceive, or sorry, that Sarah was going to conceive a son for Abraham on that same month, kind of like, you know,
yeah. Wow, interesting.
yeah.
And yeah, it would be kind of difficult for Abraham to conceive, huh?
Yeah. If you ask people now, they'd probably be like, well, actually,
Yeah, I know, right?
a man can. Okay.
Yeah, sadly.
I was listening to Jeremy read the Apocrypha of, I think it was Moses. And in there, they were asking for things that they could take with. They asked for seeds, for healing, I don't know if possibly they were collecting seeds for the outside, and maybe preparing
Ooh.
to go out. So that just came to mind. Preparation for the outside world.
Yeah, I mean, because that's a good point, because Yah did also have to help them make clothes also, because they realized they were naked. So I guess doing all that couldn't have taken a day, but yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love it when we come together. We get all these revelations.
Yeah, I keep trying to save room for the possibility that maybe we aren't in the season. But I was telling my mom, there's just confirmation after confirmation. And, when you're realizing and looking for truth, right? Or you're looking for the error, it doesn't take long to start finding that, string to pull before, a lie starts to unravel. And so far, there's been nothing but, solid proof after solid proof that there's things that we've been purposely not taught in church, and things in history that have a wonky timeline that don't add up. And, us blindly believing things that they told us because they're the experts, right? And so it's just my percentage of trying to keep, the possibility that we're still pre-millennial is really starting to get even smaller.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's always that possibility, we could be before or after it still, because the same events are going to play out.
Well, I was telling Katrina that, again, when you're thinking about, so the elites go off of Numbers 2, right? They take everything of Yah's and they twist it and they turn it into their own, destructive, nasty, abominable way. And so they use gematria too. They use numbers, and boy, do they love them. And they talk through gematria as well. Certain events all have numbers and codes and symbols and, you name it. And they have gematria codes for tribulation, for the second coming. If we are pre-millennial reign, it says that even Yahusha didn't know the day and the hour. Only Yah did. So if this isn't a repeat of what has already happened, how do they have codes for it? How is it that they are able to set up the stage unless it's scripted?
Wow.
It's just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point because, yeah, how do they know these things? Because, they have them. It's in the TV, it's in the news, it's in the movies, all this predictive programming. Well, how do they know this is going to come about? Well, it's already happened before. So they're just like, they know that. So they're just showing us what's going to happen again. Just my thoughts. Pretty interesting.
No, exactly. Because how can, yeah, how they don't know the ways of the Most High.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and he tells his prophets these things, and and they go and they go tell. And so again, for me, it's just a matter of, they definitely know what time we're in, and they want to control the narrative of time for as long as they can up until the very last second. Because I do know that Hasatan knows that his season is short, especially since he was released after the 1,000 years. I mean, you know, like I said, I'm just overwhelmed with how much deception there is. And I can't believe I was blind to it for so long. There's so much. It takes very little effort. All you have to do is just start pulling at that string and it just unravels.
Yeah, and that's part of the whole thing is a deception. It is literally is a deception, you know. And it gets and because I don't remember who brought it up. It was you or Katrina, but you know, it's they get the whole that's what the whole churchianity is looking forward to is, you know, the millennial reign and, you know, being there with Messiah and all this. But that's part of the deception. What if it already happened? So everyone's going to have this goal of, you know, getting a crown and so forth. But in reality, we're just, you know, working our way to make it into the kingdom. Just interesting thoughts, you know. And there is a lot of evidence to support it. You know, the day the stars fell, you know, there's the moon turns blood red constantly. The sun goes dark as well. You know, just interesting things.
You know how we all are learning from each other. Everybody kind of has bits and pieces of the puzzle, like Marissa said. Well, I just had a good friend stay with me for the last 2 weeks, Mackenzie. She's been on in our group before. But she was talking about how the fake Jews had been kicked out of so many countries, hundreds of countries, and many of them were locked up. And then we were talking about Satan. She says, you know, Satan isn't a person. There's no one Satan. I says, well, yeah, I'm aware there are people who say Satan doesn't exist, but Satan just means adversary, and there's probably been many adversaries. Gabriel in the garden acted as a Satan to Eve. He was the adversary. So the adversary could be one person, or it could be a whole group of people. She says, I think the adversary, the Satans, and she was saying it plural, were the fake Jews who had been kicked out and locked up. And she says, and Napoleon in the 1700s released them and started placing them in countries. And she says, I think they are the adversary that's been loosed and who have been causing the deception and the adversity in the world the last few hundred years. And I was like, you know, you got a point there. I think she might be right. We know the fake Jews are the source of many, many problems, and they are the lying scribes who have penned the corrupted scriptures. They are the ones in control of education and music and Hollywood and the governments around the world and banking. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So we were speculating together if during the 1,000-year reign, I thought, well, the minions, and I've been calling them Satan's minions, the wicked ones, the sons of darkness, they were kind of neutered during that time. Their hands were tied. They still existed. They were still mischievous and wicked and evil. But because YAHUAH was reigning, they really were not in control. But when YAHUAH and the saints, the resurrected saints, picked up and left, Satan's minions took over. And she says, well, I think Satan's minions are the Satans. They were released, and so I got thinking with her. I says, well, we can speculate that Satan's season of deception is basically the season of the sons of darkness. It's their season of deception. Look at the deception they wreaked on the world for the last 300, 400, 500 years, since about the 1500s. It seems like they were released, and then they were empowered in the mid to late 1700s. And so, and then in Revelation 20, it says that the Gog Magog will surround the camp of the saints. Gog Magog are nations of people, the wicked nations, which could be them. They surround the camp of the saints or the righteous, which I thought, well, were they surrounding the resurrected resurrected saints, and is that why they left? I don't know. But they pretty much have us surrounded. We are in slavery. We don't even own our own homes because you constantly pay taxes. If you miss your taxes, they take it. Even if your home is completely paid off, they don't own your car. I just got done paying my sales tax on my car that I bought 20 years ago. I paid sales tax at the time. Everything we do, we have to have a license. We have to have their permission. We're essentially living in slavery. And those people, the Zionists, the sons of darkness, they hate the Christians, they hate the believers, they hate those believers, the Israelites who are trying to follow Torah now, all the many Israelite nations who are waking up and doing their best to follow Torah. Because we never were taught Torah. We were taught that it was no longer relevant. So that's my speculation, is that the season that we're living in, the season of deception, that Satan or the adversary is actually a group of people that we can clearly call the sons of darkness. What do you think about that? Have any of you had any thoughts in that direction?
I would absolutely agree, because that's even what the Dead Sea Scrolls is telling us. You know, the sons of darkness, they're the synagogue of Hasatan over there.
Yeah, and they were pretty much. I mean, many of them that were kicked out of country after country, many of them were jailed. They were locked up. Many of them were locked up, or at least their hands were tied. And during that time, they could not work their mischief on the nations. So I think there might be more to it than we realized.
Yeah, for sure.
Many of us realize, who those people are, that they're not God's chosen people. And what a big fat lie. They have most of Christendom believing that they're God's chosen people, and most of Christendom they don't even know who they are. Scripture says that Yah's people will be blind to their identity. They will be called by a different name. They will speak different languages. They won't have a clue who they are, and they will be scattered to the four corners of the earth. So we're supposed to believe a little wicked group of people sequestered in a piece of real estate across the ocean are God's chosen people? Nope, not even close. No. We may be in the middle of the Gog-Magog war. Paul Stubbs, the gentleman with the YouTube channel, the what's it called? The conspiracy channel. He talks a lot about Satan's season, and he has speculated. He says, what if, the second resurrection? What if the second resurrection's already occurred? Of course, we've talked about that. And he says, what if we've been in the midst of the Gog-Magog war, that it's not necessarily going to be one big war at the end, but it's been ongoing. It's a war against Yah's people.
Interesting.
Just something extra to think about.
Well, I have two comments, if I may.
Okay, great.
The first one with Satan's little season makes sense. I don't know about a group, but I've heard a lady who claims to have been high priestess in the Satanic Luciferian Church. She says that on October 31st, they make a seat for Satan, and he goes around to all the assemblies who are honoring him, and he makes it around in one night. He doesn't spend time in each one, but he appears, sits for 5-10 minutes, and then goes to the next one and travels all around the world to make it to the satanic gatherings on October 31st, which I thought was interesting. Sounds like Santa. And so he is, alive and well, unless they're getting deceived. And then second is Los Angeles, the fallen angels, the stars. They're saying that the angels fell. Los Angeles, it's all about the fallen angels and the fallen stars have to do with Hollywood and Los Angeles. I've heard a teaching on that and how Paramount has the number of stars supposedly representing fallen angels and all their symbolism link to that time and possibly I don't know what era, but where the angels fell, and they say it was Los Angeles and the control that has. It was just something. I don't know if anybody else has something on that, but
Are you relating that to the subject that I brought up?
yes, just with the fallen. We've been talking about the fallen angels, the fallen stars,
Yeah.
and you talked about the jays, or the mice as we call them, and it's our code word as we're being monitored, and just the control that they have had and what they've done, and it to our country and everything. And if they are controlled by the Nephilim, the fallen angels, the whatever,
Yeah.
those are just two thoughts that I had. But yeah, I don't know if it's a group of people or one entity. It's definitely a stronghold. It's definitely an army.
Well, those fallen angels did act as adversaries to mankind, and they probably are back. They're Nicolas Cage even was in a movie 20 years ago about angels. What was that called? And it was over Los Angeles. He was an angel, a fallen angel, and
Yeah.
the city of angels, or it had something to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but those people, whether they're the adversaries, the Satans, or the Satan's minions, they definitely are being used in this time.
Right.
And they're the source of probably most of the deception. And Hollywood is definitely used as a huge part of that deception.
And how can we combat it? Because they've had thousands of years to perfect their truth, their technology, and everything.
Well, I don't know if we can combat it, but what we can do is walk in Torah, keep waking others up until there's such a groundswell, and their time of annihilation is coming.
Yes.
And the earth will be cleansed and renewed.
Yes, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, don't partake, don't watch or support, just expose it.